gone by, these two hombres would be considered the top gunslingers in the West. Today, for these quarterbacks who use arms in place of guns, it's high noon. Rick Johnson and the Stampeders against Matt Dunnigan and the Eskimos. Taking the place of Dodge City for this Alberta shootout, Commonwealth Stadium. To the winners, a place in the Western Final against the BC Lions.
The following is a live presentation of CBC Sports.
Yesterday in Vancouver, the Bombers are less than a yard away from scoring and tying the Lions and perhaps forcing overtime. But once again, the BC defense came up with a big play to snuff out what would have been a remarkable comeback. The Lions hang on to defeat the Bombers for the third week in a row. After a late season slump, the Lions are alive and well and bound for the Western Final. The opposition for the defending Grey Cup champions will be decided here in Commonwealth Stadium. It's the Stampeders and Eskimos in the second half of the Western semifinal. Hi, everyone, and welcome to chilly Edmonton. Unlike BC less than 24 hours ago, the weather will be a factor here this afternoon. Working with me, a man who's used to cold playing conditions, having quarterbacked the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at one point in his CFL career. Chuck, it's going to be a small crowd here this afternoon, but an enthusiastic one.
Definitely, Steve. I know that the fans will be up for this game and be enthusiastic for the Battle of Alberta, as well as the players on both sides.
All week long, the fans in Edmonton and Calgary have been talking about the Allen factor. It was a big question mark. Who would be the starting running back for the Calgary Stampeders? We can tell you now it will not be Gary Allen. He has strained knee ligaments. He gained over 1,000 yards rushing for the Stampeders. He will be sorely missed. His place in the backfield for the Stampeders will be taken by this man, Ryan Potter, a 6-year veteran of the CFL. He rushed for only 39 yards on 11 carries. He does not have the experience of a Gary Allen, but he is a good backup running back. Chuck, how much will the disappearance of Gary Allen from the offense mean to Calgary?
Well, it will mean a great deal as far as having problems in calling their offense. This will have to change Rick Johnson's play calls because Allen's a big man that comes up with the big plays, and now they'll have to go more to their passing game and to their receivers. And when they go to their receivers, they'll go to number 88, Ray Alexander. At 6'3" and with a great deal of speed, he offers a good target for Rick Johnson. But also, he's caught 89 passes for over 1,600 yards and 10 touchdowns. So you know that they'll go to him as a big play man.
He was number 2 in receiving in the CFL. As you mentioned, he is a big target, and I'm sure that Rick Johnson will go to him many, many times this afternoon. When you talk about the Calgary defense, they have strength at 3 key positions.
Well, it's important for that defense to come up with some big plays. And they're going to have to rely not only on their defensive line, led by Harold Hallman, who has 19 quarterback sacks, but also by their middle linebacker, Anthony Woodson. Woodson is caught between a rock and a hard place because he's going to have to watch those 2 running backs come out of the backfield for the rush as well as the pass receiving. And then you go to their left corner, Mel Jenkins is going to have a tough time watching those receivers of Edmonton Eskimos.
When you talk about a well-balanced offense, look no further than the Eskimos, led by Kelly.
Yes, Brian Kelly, number 70, is an outstanding receiver. He's only caught 49 passes this year, but he's caught 10 of those passes for touchdowns. And when you do that, you know that you have the big play man, and in the playoffs, he has that game experience. Going from there, he has to go also to Milson Jones and Chris Skinner, as Matt Dunnigan will rely on his backs coming out of the backfield, not only from the rush, but also pass receiving. Milson Jones has caught 55, and Chris Skinner has caught 52, so you know he's going to use those guys as well.
On defense, the Edmonton Eskimos have a big play man, a man who makes things happen in Stuart Hill.
Well, Stuart Hill is their big play man, as you said, for defense, and he's going to have to put the pressure on the quarterbacking of Rick Johnson to keep the heat on him throughout the game. He has 17 quarterback sacks and 4 fumble recoveries, so he'll be in the game all evening.
Chuck, the playing conditions here at Commonwealth Stadium will be a factor, which means that the key factor in the game could be the kicking game. Now, both teams have excellent kickers, J.T. Hay for the Calgary Stampeders and Tom Dixon for the Edmonton Eskimos. However, if it comes down to a long field goal to decide the game, you would have to favor the Stampeders because Tom Dixon outside the 50-yard line was good on none. 0 for 2. For J.T. Hay, on the other hand, of the Stampeders, he had a remarkable success rate outside of the 50-yard line. He was good on 8 of 9. So if it comes down to the kicking game, you may have to go with the Calgary Stampeders. The opening kickoff is coming up in just a moment. Right now, let's go to CFL Control and Brian Williams. Brian?
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to CFL Control in Toronto. One other game this afternoon, and it is now a final score. Somewhat of a surprise at Ivor Wynne Stadium. The Argonauts with an easy 31-17 win over the Hamilton Ticats in the first of the two-game total point Eastern playoff scene. In the third quarter, J.C. Watts at quarterback. He started the day. This is his second rushing touchdown of the day. The Argonauts go on to win 31-17. Game 2 is next Sunday at Exhibition Stadium here in Toronto, so the Argonauts will take a 14-0 lead into that game. Again, it is a two-game total point Eastern playoff situation. The Calgary Stampeders and the Edmonton Eskimos, the last time these teams met in a Western playoff was the Western Final, and that was back in 1979. And like today, the game played in the Commonwealth Stadium. Here is Warren Moon going to Brian Kelly. Edmonton would win the game 19-7, go on to beat Montreal 17-9 in the Grey Cup. 2-5 national titles for the Eskimos. You know, it surprises me. Edmonton and Calgary have only met 6 times in the playoffs going back to 1960, and it is dead even at 3-3. A somewhat different story as we look at this 86 regular season. The Eskimos winning all 3 games. However, 2 of them, the first and the third meetings, were close. Coming up at halftime, we will talk live with the head coach of the BC Lions, Don Matthews, and Don Whitman, who called yesterday's game, will join us from our studios in Vancouver, and we'll have a report on yesterday's junior final in Regina. Stay with us. The CFL on CBC will continue right after this.
Typical might be the best word to describe the weather for the second half of this Western semifinal. It's not overly cold, but the wind will prevent the temperature from rising, and there's a strong possibility of snow flurries throughout the game, if you can believe that. The officiating team today is headed by 40-year-old Bud Ulrich. Working with Ulrich will be Bill Jones, Don Ellis, Ed Dunn, Art McAvoy, and Larry Rohan. As Tom Dixon tees it up on the frozen turf here at Commonwealth Stadium as we look at the officiating team for this Western semifinal, the second half of the Western semifinal. The first half was decided yesterday when the BC Lions defeated the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And we are now seconds from getting this game underway. Tom Dixon kicks off, angles it over to the right side, and it goes out of bounds. A flag goes down, so the Edmonton Eskimos will probably do it all over again.
Well, that's unfortunate kick for Edmonton right now. You want to try to put them deep, but then when you kick it out of bounds, you got another 5 yards to kick it down the field. So now they have to start all over again.
Chuck, you had a chance to get down on that frozen turf here at Commonwealth Stadium. What's it like?
Well, it's very hard, as you would expect at a frozen turf, but the problem you're going to get into is with the receivers and people who are trying to make cut. The grass is very slippery, and as you try to plant too hard, that your feet will come off from under you. So they got to be careful, and maybe you'll see the receivers rounding their patterns off a little more rather than making that sharp cut.
The Eskimos have won 8 straight games versus the Stampeders, including 3 games this year, 21-10, that was a close one, 42-19 and 38-10, and now the 4th game is underway. And that's a good example of a player trying to pick up the ball and missing the ball. Still on his feet at the 40-yard line. Darcy Kopp, a good return. And he was dropped by Phil Jones. So Rick Johnson and the Stampeders offense will have good field position to scrimmage from.
Well, Rick Johnson now is going to have to change his game plan just a bit and rely on the passing. I said Rick Johnson is the key here with Petros and Ryan Potter back there in the running back position. The wide receivers are going to Emmanuel Tarrant and Ray Alexander will be the big key. And that offensive line will have to give Johnson enough time to throw that ball.
1st and 10, Stampeders, the ball just shy of the 40-yard line. Complete to Potter. Potter at the 45. And he's tripped up just shy of the 50 by Schaefer. Harding also assisting on the tackle for the Eskimos.
Well, good safe play to start off with. You know they don't have the kind of guys. If you take a look at the defensive line, led by Tom Tournay and Stuart Hill, the big man for them to come up with the big plays. And the linebackers, Craig Schaefer, Danny Bass, the middle linebacker, will come up with some big plays also for them. That secondary, led by Greg Harding, who's having a good year, and Ron Howard.
A good start for the Calgary Stampeders. A pickup of 11 yards on that pass from Johnson to Ryan Potter. Gives them a 1st and 10 situation, and they spot the ball just shy of the 50-yard line. This time he goes to Petros with a similar play, and Petros is hit hard shy of the 55-yard line by Danny Bass.
Well, it seems that Rick Johnson is beginning to try to set up a different strategy. Since he doesn't have Gary Allen to run, he's going to try to use his backs out of the backfield on short passing game. putting all of his receivers up in the immediate line and causing those linebackers to drop back into the zone areas to try to cover them, then hit those backs when they get some area away rather than trying to run them through the line of scrimmage.
All on their own 54.
That was a gain of 4 in that last play. So make it 2nd and 6 for the Stampeders. This time, no running room at all, as Danny Bass moves in there to pull down Potter. Tom Tuinei assisting on the tackle.
Well, big play by Danny Bass. His job in there is to sit back there and read and just find the defensive hole that he can get through to make the big hit on the players, and he was able to get through the hole there and make that tackle.
They had to get to the Eskimos' 50-yard line for the first down, well short, so that will bring on Glenn Harper in a punting situation for the Stampeders. He'll get this punt away from his own 45-yard line. 13-16 remaining to play in the opening quarter here at Commonwealth Stadium. No score. This is Williams at the 15. Dancing around, but he goes nowhere. As a matter of fact, he'll lose a yard on the play, and it was Ryan Potter downfield to make the stop.
Well, again, as the game went on yesterday, the big thing about that were mistakes, and you got to watch the mistakes for both teams today. Matt Dunnigan at quarterback. Also, you can put in there as Damon Allen. Those two guys are going to be effective today. Stephen Jones at wide receiver. A lot of speed there. And on the offensive line, they've got a lot of experience there and a lot of people that have been around for a few years.
First opportunity for the Eskimos on offense. Matt Dunnigan is indeed the starting quarterback. The ball's at the 15. Dunnigan under pressure, and that's what the Calgary Stampeders felt they had to do all afternoon against Matt Dunnigan, was apply pressure.
Well, they know that they have to put the heat on him because he has some good receivers that he can hit upfield. And Matt Dunnigan reads so well that if he comes off his first receivers, he can go to the secondary guys. Taking a look at that defense, Harold Hallman, who's outstanding Shinley Award nominee for the Western Division. In the middle, you got Anthony Woodson, as we talked about earlier, and Mel Jenkins at that corner. So you got a tough defense there.
Chalk up a loss of 7 yards, 2nd and 17. The ball's on the 8-yard line. Dunnigan with time this time. Elects to keep it himself. And he fumbles as he's pulled into touch by Alva Satelli. The Eskimos will retain possession. Unfortunately for them, they did not pick up the first down, so that will bring on Tom Dixon and the Eskimos punting unit.
Well, that was a good defensive play by Calgary, and they've got to have that because that offense of Calgary has got to try to get that ball as many times as possible to establish some rhythm in there. Their game plan will change somewhat now that they don't have Gary Allen in there to use the running game, and they may use the passing game more effectively and try to use it to the backs coming out of that backfield.
In warm-up, Tom Dixon was booming of 55, 60 yards, but all kickers seem to kick well in the warm-up. See what he does in game conditions. And it goes off the side of his foot, taken at the 45-yard line and run out of bounds almost immediately. So with 11 minutes and 42 seconds remaining to play in the opening quarter, we've got a scoreless tie here at Commonwealth Stadium. That's one way of keeping warm here at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton. It is a cold afternoon for the Western semifinal between the Eskimos and the Calgary Stampeders. I'm Steve Armitage along with Chuck Eby. We've got Brian Williams in the warmth of CFL control. Brian, I hope you're enjoying yourself. It is cold here. It is a 1st and 10 situation for the Stampeders. And the ball is at the 45-yard line of the Eskimos. A fumble! Schaefer caused the fumble. The Eskimos have recovered. Stuart Hill.
Well, it's just a good play by Schaefer. And he's playing as linebacker. And Stuart Hill normally comes up here. Well, if you take a look at Schaefer right there, he just reads it and he comes from his blitz. At this point, he comes to the outside and he's able to make the block. The tackle there caused the fumble.
A big break for the Edmonton Eskimos. The first break of the game caused by the Eskimos defense. And that sets up an offensive situation for Matt Dunnigan and the Eskimos as we look at the man who recovered the fumble. His 5th fumble recovery of the season. 1st and 10 Eskimos. And whistles blow the play dead as Dunnigan was sprinting out to his right.
Well, we
time count violation. Edmonton, first down repeated.
Well, we said that the game could be decided by the various mistakes, and that was a big play by the Edmonton defense and a mistake as far as Calgary's concerned when they had good field position.
You've only got X number of seconds to put that ball into play. Matt Dunnigan did not do it that time as he checks his wristband for his play selection. First and 15 for the Eskimos. The ball is at the 37-yard line of the Stampeders. No score, first quarter. Dunnigan just floats it up. It's complete. Chris Skinner, and they rule incomplete. They say he was out of bounds when he took possession of the ball.
Again, we have these backs coming out of the backfield, running up the field, and Chris Skinner and Milson Jones will be doing that all afternoon if they can as far as getting open. But what Chris Skinner did when he ran up the field there, it seems as though when he ran down and ran the pattern, the first time he hit the ball, hit his hands, he began to juggle it, and he juggled it out of bounds. As you see in the replay, Matt Dunnigan makes a read, and Skinner's out there by himself, and the ball hits his hands, and he juggles it, and then that's when they called him out of bounds. If he'd caught it when he first hit his hands, he would have been okay.
So it's a 2nd and 15 situation now for the Eskimos. The Stampeders were coming that time. Complete to Williams, and Williams gets down to the 35-yard line. They needed to get to the 22 for the first down, so they're well short.
Well, that time Matt Dunnigan read the blitz and just dropped it off to the back coming out of the backfield, and they were not able to get enough for the first down, but they're still in a position to kick a field goal and come up with 3 here.
It'll be 3rd down and 12.
Tom Dixon, who comes into the game with 190 points, attempted 60 field goals, completed 34. His longest was a 49-yarder. So this is well within his range, coming from the 42. And it is good. A 42-yard field goal from Tom Dixon has made that man happy. The head coach of the Eskimos, Jackie Parker. Tom Dixon's 35th field goal of the season puts the Eskimos on top of the Stampeders by a score of 3-0. There was one factor that a lot of people were concerned about as far as the Stampeders were coming into this game, and that was the layoff. They have not played for 2 weeks. How would it affect them? Well, coming off a layoff at other points in the season, they came back to beat Ottawa and Winnipeg. Do you think that could be a factor, Chuck?
Well, I think it has its advantages as far as you come off and get some injury, people healed well. The other factor could be a problem starting off slow, but Calgary has not started off slow so far.
1st and 10, Stampeders. They get to Petros. Petros picks up 7 or 8 yards. Schaefer in there to make the tackle for the Eskimos.
Well, Rick Johnson is going to have to try to get some aspects of that running game going. He wants to alleviate some of that pressure that defensive line will put on him if he has to just rely completely on the pass.
Gain of 8, it'll be 2nd down and 2.
Tim Petros, the fullback,
On their own 42.
rushed the ball 74 times in regular season play, picked up 348 yards. As we look at the Calgary bench and their head coach, Bob Vespasiani. Gain of 7 on the last play, 2nd and 3. They give to Potter. Potter looking for some running room outside. There's none to be found. Tom Tuinen.
Well, good penetration by that defensive line, and when you're running into a short yardage situation, you want your defensive line to rush in there and penetrate. And as you can take a look at, they get across that offensive line and beat them. A lot of your battles are won up on that offensive line, and once you beat that offensive line with a defensive lineman, you're in that backfield, then you create problems for that running back to find his hole.
A very telling statistic for the Edmonton Eskimos. 2nd against the rush. Harper has one go off the side of his foot. Gets a Calgary bounce. Williams fields it inside the 25. Is forced out of bounds at the 25-yard line, so that's where Matt Dunnigan and the Eskimos offense will scrimmage from. 8:47 remaining to play in the opening quarter. We talked earlier about how the Eskimos and Stampeders have done this season. They have met a total of 6 times in playoff action over the years, and the series is even at 3. So, in effect, this is the rubber match between the Eskimos and Stampeders in terms of playoffs?
Well, it's a rubber match, but it's good for the Calgary Stampeders. They want to establish themselves this year. They've come back from a long road and had a very successful year, and they want to continue with it. They're a young team, and this playoff experience this year, regardless of what happens today, will be enhance their future play because they're a good team.
They came very, very close to losing the franchise in Calgary, but thanks to the hard work of a lot of people, it is alive and well. They turned it around this year. They finished 4th in the West with a record of 11-7, and they are playing the Eskimos, who finished with a record of 13-4-1, the leaders in the CFL West. 1st and 10 for Matt Dunnigan and company. The ball's at the 25. Dunnigan, quick pass. It's complete to Stephen Jones. Jones can run when he gets the ball. He's shown us that many times this season. And he's almost up to the 50.
Well, I talked to Stephen Jones before the game, and one of the things we were talking about was we were watching him run a few patterns down the field with the footing, and he had a problem as far as running down and making his cut. Now, as you see, you throw a quick pass out here, the defensive backs are at a disadvantage because they're backing up, and they can't force up quick to come and get him. So now he just catches the ball and get what he can for as far as the first down is concerned.
A pickup of 19 yards for Stephen Jones and the Eskimos. Makes it 1st and 10. What a remarkable catch Stephen Jones made in that first game against the Calgary Stampeders. Dunnigan elects to run it. And he's forced out of bounds just inside the Calgary territory.
Well, that's where a guy like Matt Dunnigan's abilities are so valuable as a good athlete. He drops back there and sees that the receivers are covered, and they give him a big hole up the middle, and he just takes off enough to get the first down.
They spot the ball at the 54-yard line of the Stampeders. Pick up 12 yards for Dunnigan on the last play. 1st and 10. Swing pass. Jones fumbles. Fortunately for the Eskimos, he fumbles out of bounds.
Matt Dunnigan is using his backs as well again, as we know that they're going to swing out of the backfield, and as he catches it out wide, Jones gets a break and runs through the field, but he fumbles the ball and it goes out of bounds, and a big break for the Edmonton Eskimos that ball was not turned over to Calgary.
The ball shot out to his left. It got out of bounds, so the Eskimos retain possession. 1st and 10 from the Calgary 43. The Eskimos lead 3-0 on a Tom Dixon 42-yard field goal. 7-11 remaining to play in the opening quarter. Dunnigan to Sinkar. Bernie Morrison makes the tackle on Sinkar, but not before Sinkar is able to get down inside the 30-yard line.
Well, that's good with Matt Dunnigan. He used all of his receivers well. All through the year, Stephen Jones caught 40, Sinkar caught 37, Skinner caught 52, Jones caught 55, and Kelly caught 49. So he's well balanced in his attack as far as throwing the passes to different people on the field.
He picked up 15 yards on the play. 1st and 10 Eskimos. The ball's at the 28. Complete to Stephen Jones. Jones down inside the 20-yard line.
Again, a good safe play that you can go to. Just hit the receiver quick in front of that defensive back who's in the back pedal. Now, with the type of field that you have down there this afternoon, is frozen, and so that defensive back has got to give you another yard or two than he normally would as far as respect, because it's an advantage for the offensive guys going down knowing where they're cutting than it is for the defensive guys trying to defend against that.
I've been impressed with the game plan of the Eskimos so far in offense. They're just going with what the Calgary defense will give them. A short pass.
Well, when you're playing in this type of weather, which they've experienced in the last couple of games, then they know what type of attack to use. You don't necessarily have to use a running game as long as you just go into those backs short in the flat areas where they can pick up 5 or 6 yards and keep those defensive backs and defensive linebackers backing up and react after that with what you get when you run the ball.
A key 2nd down in the opening quarter. And no doubt about it, Dunnigan on the quarterback sneak, and he has about 4 or 5 yards.
Well, Matt Dunnigan is one of the few guys who can probably make a quarterback sneak look exciting, because every time he gets through the hole, he's not only looking for the first down, he's trying to go and follow his blockers. That's what he does. He reads that well, finds the hole, and go as far as he can. If he can keep his feet going, he's going to try to take it for a touchdown. He's not just looking for the first down. He's looking for all the way.
Dunnigan definitely didn't remind me of Chuck Ely on the quarterback sneak. 1st and 10 Eskimos. The ball's at the 13. Flags go down. And Dunnigan is hit just as he unloads. Larry Hogue in on top of Dunnigan. But we've got flags down on both sides of the field.
Offside, Calgary, number 75.
Stu Laird is called on the offside for Calgary. So another break in favor of the Eskimos.
Well, this is what you may see sometimes as a quarterback. You see those linebackers are beginning to blitz at Dunnigan and what he's reading. And as they come in when the blitz on the outside, even with the defensive backs, they get extra pressure on Matt Dunnigan. That time, unfortunately for Calgary, they were offsides, and the Edmonton Eskimos gets another first down.
1st and 5 Eskimos. The ball is at the 8-yard line. Edmonton on top, 3-0. Skinner. Skinner refuses to go down. He does get down inside the 5-yard line. Anthony Woodson over there to make the stop for Calgary. I would think that Jackie Parson would be pleased with the performance of his club so far. Nothing spectacular, just steady. Dunnigan taking what the Calgary defense will give him. The short yardage offense is in for the Eskimos. 2nd and about 1. Maybe we can expect a pass in this situation. Dunnigan rolling out, looking for some room. There's none to be had. He is dropped. A big play by the Calgary defense.
Well, that's just good pressure, good defensive rush. You've got to get down there when you're in those short yardage situations. You've got to have penetration from that defensive line and that linebacking crew. And when that happens, you get that pressure and you push that quarterback back or those running backs back. That time they forced Dunnigan out of the general area where the running backs run, and were able to drop him for a loss.
Jenkins leading the way for the Stampeders. And it's Mel Jenkins who was shaken up on the play.
Well, they don't want to lose Mel Jenkins. He's been a valuable asset to that defensive secondary, and you need a guy like that in there with a lot of experience on that corner, because he's coming up against Brian Kelly over there, and you know that Brian Kelly has a lot of experience and knows how to beat people. And if he gets rookies in there, you look for Dunnigan and Kelly to work on it.
At the beginning of the game, we suggested that he was one of the 3 key players on the Calgary defense.
Well, as you see, when he went to tackle Dunnigan, he just twisted that knee behind him, and he and Dunnigan sort of rolled over on that thing. So you hope it's nothing serious, because knee injuries are the ones that players fear the most, and that when you get planted like that in a situation and somebody falls on your knee, it's a little pain there. You hope it's nothing serious, that he won't be back in a few plays.
Jenkins had 7 interceptions on the season, but right now Tom Dixon is on the field for the Eskimos to attempt his 2nd field goal of the game in an attempt to put the Eskimos on top 6-0. This one a chip shot for Dixon from the 15. And he booms it through. So the Edmonton Eskimos go in front of the Calgary Stampeders. By a score 6-0. We've got 4 minutes and 13 seconds remaining to play in the first quarter. A cold day at Commonwealth Stadium and all kinds of clothing to keep people warm. That seems to be the name of the game. Get wrapped up. Don't get cold, because if the cold sets in, you're in big trouble.
I tell you what, Steve, it is cold out here, and the wind, if you keep that wind down, you're okay. And the players don't mind so much the atmosphere and the air being cold, but it's when that wind starts blowing that it really takes its toll on you.
What I want to know, is it a heavy air or light air?
We'll have to ask Ronnie that.
Professor Lancaster has all the answers to that. I believe he says it's a light air here in Edmonton. What are we at, 1,200 feet up from sea level? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, it's a light air. Tom Dixon kicking off following that field goal, and again he angles it over to the right side, taking it to 30. And then Sparsy caught, fumbles, and the Eskimos once again another big break and recover.
you can't afford to give a good team like the Edmonton Eskimos the ball in situations by turning it over to them. They're a good enough team to score on you any way they can, but you need to come up and you keep drives alive, keep the game going on your side without turning the ball over to another team. As he's running, he's got to tuck it away, and it slips out of his arm, and he just fumbles it up, and Edmonton recovers. You've got to tuck that ball away when you feel that contact, protect it.
And they spot the ball just outside the 53-yard line of the Stampeders, where Edmonton are now 1st and 10. Dunnigan under some pressure from Woodson, and finally knocked out of bounds. That was Harold Hallman who was applying the pressure.
Well, that defensive team of Calgary does not want to allow Dunnigan to get to the outside, so you've got to keep that containment on him. The one danger about trying to contain Dunnigan a lot of times, if you use your defensive ends to charge up the field wide, then you create those seams inside where those running backs can run free. So a quarterback like Matt Dunnigan puts a lot of pressure on a defense.
And there's Cliff Toney, the man who forced the fumble from Darcy Kopp to give the Eskimos possession of the ball. They are now 2nd and 7 at the 51. Dunnigan had the ball knocked out of his arm as he attempted the pass. It is a Calgary recovering the Edmonton fumble. Stu Laird forcing the turnover.
Well, good defensive play. They've got to come back now after they turn the ball over, is get the ball back, either by interception, any way you can. As he comes back in there, he takes a swipe at it, and they come back and pull the ball down before Dunnigan begins to let his arm go forward, and it's not an incomplete pass. It's a fumble, and Calgary has the ball.
Awfully close to having that arm go forward. The ball's at the midfield stripe as the Stampeders celebrate. 1st and 10. Little movement there on the part of the Eskimos. Mandridge moving early. And Stuart Hill in to make a stop on Rick Johnson.
Making down Rick Johnson, there is a flag.
Let's get the call.
Offside, Edmonton, number 75.
Eskimos are offside.
Mandridge moving early and costing the Eskimos. That'll move the ball down to the 50-yard line.
As
the Eskimos.
Excuse me, Steve. As a quarterback, sometimes when you see that, you want to take total advantage of that. You know you've got a free one. Turn it up and let it go downfield. Make sure that you at least try to get the touchdown, because the worst that can happen is brought back and you get another 5 yards.
1st and 5, Calgary. They trail 6-0. 2:44 remaining to play in the opening quarter. Danny Bass leading the charge on Ryan Potter. Potter unable to get back to the original line of scrimmage.
Good play by Danny Bass. He's a big key as far as that middle linebacker. You've got a lot of things you have to watch for. You have to watch for screens. You have to watch for the backs as far as running flare patterns and flat patterns. That time he faked the blitz, and then he came back to the onside of the play, read it, got in the hole, and was able to make the tackle.
A loss of 1 on the play. 2nd and 6. Ball at the 51. To Alexander, and they complete it down at the 36-yard line. Good enough for the 1st down.
Good play by Alexander, because what he did is he ran the out pattern, and he can't plant that hard, and he has to keep his feet in bounds or go out of bounds. It wouldn't be a catch, but he had to stop enough before he slid out of bounds on the frozen turf, so he held his feet in just enough to make the pass completion.
In spite of the fact that the Stampeders lost all 3 games to the Eskimos this year, Ray Alexander certainly had fine individual performances against the Eskimos. 1st and 10, Calgary. The ball at the 36. They give it Petrus on the draw, and he gets to the 35-yard line where he runs into Stuart Hill.
Well, this is where the Calgary Stampeders are beginning to miss a guy like Gary Allen. He creates fear in those defensive linebackers and personnel and people that are involved. And he can take a play like this. When you take that drive, he gets hit and like that, and gets a hit like that. Usually a guy maybe will break loose. And even Gary Allen, I don't think could have got away from that hit. But at the same time, he makes those linebackers and defensive people pay attention to him. But he's not here today, and that could be a problem for Calgary.
They need 9 yards for the 1st down. Keep the drive alive. Quick pass over the middle, complete to Emmanuel Trover. And he has the first down, but he paid the price. Kenny Bass unloaded on him.
Well, that was a good read by Rick Johnson. That time, Edmonton came with the blitz, and we go what we call a hot pattern. All of a sudden, the linebackers leave from their position. There's no underneath coverage. You just drop the ball in there quick. You know that you got man coverage by the defensive backs, and they're going to react up quick, so get rid of that ball.
Johnson, by the way, is 4 for 4 for 41 yards. Pickup of 11 on that last play. 1st and 10, Calgary. The ball's at the 24. Johnson, complete on the far sidelines to Ray Alexander. He also had Larry Willis wide open. So he had his choice there, and he went to the veteran Alexander. Another first down for Calgary.
Well, Calgary is doing a little something different. They're coming back with only one running back in the backfield and using 5 receivers. So they're planning on going to that passing game a little more than they anticipate without Gary Allen in that backfield.
This could be the final play of the opening quarter. 1st and 10. Johnson wants to pass again, complete over the middle, in and out of the arms of Woodruff. And he could have caught that pass. That was definitely a catchable ball. And there goes the gun to end the opening quarter of play here at Commonwealth Stadium. The Eskimos in front of Calgary 6-0. We've talked a lot about the frozen playing conditions here at Commonwealth Stadium, and we believe that these are the shoes that the Edmonton Eskimos and Calgary Stampeders have elected to wear. These are the all-terrain type of shoe, if you will. They have the long, hard rubber cleats, and hopefully they will give both teams some traction.
Well, they've tried a number of different shoes, and this is one of the ones that they picked out as far as using, and they've had some short cleats as well, and some of them have even talked about using the baseball stud shoes where it's flat.
It's a 2nd and 10 situation for Calgary. The ball is on the 12-yard line of the Eskimos. The opening play of the second quarter. And Johnson goes down, so obviously the shoes that Johnson was wearing did not help in that particular case.
One of the biggest problems you have as a quarterback is the turf, and when you drop back there, the key thing is to get that foot planted, and then you can step forward. As he plants back there with the right foot, it kicks out from under him because it slides on that slippery grass that's right there. So that's the problem that you run into, because as a quarterback, you have to plant that foot, get into the ground, step forward. If you decide to take off, that's one thing, or throw the ball.
That brings on J.T. Hay, who comes into this game with 181 points. Attempted 56 field goals, good on 40, the longest 43, so he's well within his range, but it's a high snap, and Hay does exceptionally well to get it away because his momentum up to the ball was broken. He had to pause, stop, and then kick, and he did well to put it through.
Well, I tell you, one of the great plays on that was Rick Johnson. As a holder, and I used to hold the ball, the problem when you get to, if you get it up high like that or a bad snap to one side of you, is to find the tee to set the ball on. And Rick Johnson comes up with a big play as far as getting the ball out of the air and back down on the tee for J.T. Hay. And J.T. Hay's rhythm was not broken that much that he was able to get the kickoff. So that was a good play by both of them.
But rhythm is so terribly important for a field goal kicker. And if it is in any way broken, sometimes you just can't concentrate and you end up missing the ball or hooking it left or right.
And definitely on this field is, again, the side-winding kickers that like kick that soccer style, they need that foot to plant. And if that foot goes out from under them, or they get out of rhythm, then that could be a problem for them also.
So that makes it Eskimos 6, Calgary 3. We were asked a couple of times in the past 2 or 3 days whether we thought it might be a high-scoring game. The Eskimos averaged 30 points per game over the course of the regular season. The Calgary Stampeders 26.9. So if those statistics are anything, we've got a lot of scoring to come. 6-3, 14-10 remaining in the second quarter. J.T. Hay. The ball goes by Williams. He scoops it up inside the 20. Flag goes down as Williams looking for running room at the 30, and he fumbles out of bounds. So the Eskimos will retain possession of the ball, but we'll have to wait and see what the call is from the referee.
$55-yard kickoff, 11-yard return.
Illegal block. Edmonton number 46 on the return.
Boy, as the a special teams coach, you hate to see that.
Yeah, especially when you get back there and he missed the ball on the first end of it, and now he comes back, he wants to get the ball, and he picks it up after passing, and he feels he picks up enough yards, and as he's coming down, he gets hit by Stuart Hill, and all of a sudden, he's out to the outside. They call it as far as a holding or a clipping or blocking from the rear.
That puts the Eskimos offense in a bit of a hole. They're 1st and 10 from the 10. Good time. Looking for Marco Sinkar. Hit him on the leg. But a flag goes down in the Eskimos' backfield.
Covering Edmonton number 59.
Second straight penalty against the Eskimos.
Well, we talk about the fact that Gary Allen would be absent, but one of the things with Edmonton lately is their offensive line has had some problems as far as changing personnel, as well as the fact that Rudy Phillips and Leo Blanchard have had some injuries that could affect their game. So that offensive line could have some problems up there for Edmonton.
Of course, the big loss, Hekpache, suspended. CFL Commissioner Doug Mitchell. Certainly didn't help the Eskimos. Second and 10. Complete to Rick House. House down inside Calgary territory. A perfect pass and a perfect catch on the part of Rick House.
Well, good play by Matt Dunnigan. The offensive line gave him great protection. As you take a look at it, what you might see if you were at ground level at that, Matt Dunnigan is reading, and there's nobody within 5 yards of it. And when you get that much time, you have time to stretch that zone out and create holes in the pocket upfield. And Sinkar was able to catch the ball up the field. Excuse me, Rick House was able to catch the ball up the field for a long gain.
49 yards, the exact length of that gain. The Eskimos come back with a switch pass to Wilson Jones. Jones down inside the 40-yard line.
And when you're beginning to roll along and get some big plays and to establish some type of offensive game plan, now you can start working your other plays in there. Backs out of the backfield, hit them short, hit them long, pitch and catch, and get the ball into the end zone.
And this is what we talked about at the beginning of the game, the effectiveness of Jones and Skinner as pass receivers as well as runners. A gain of 15 on the last play. It is 1st and 10 Edmonton. The ball's at the 36-yard line of Calgary. 6-3 the score. Quick screen to Stephen Jones. And Stephen Jones is tripped up at the 30-yard line.
Not a bad play to call in a situation like that because, as we said before, if you can get that defensive back, dropping back and getting to his back pedal and get him going away from it, by the time on that quick screen you get your offensive linemen or your running backs come out there, then you got a chance to pick up some extra yardage.
Stephen Jones is the injured Edmonton player, receiving attention from the Edmonton training staff. And this is how it happened.
Well, you see when you get in there tight, you get a good hit by Bernie Morrison as far as helmet-to-helmet hitting there and a good drive on him, and then somebody falls on his leg. And injuries like this, when people fall on your legs or your feet or your arms, seem to have a more hurting effect because it's a lot colder out there than normal.
Coming up at halftime in today's game, a feature I think you'll enjoy. Don Matthews is sitting in our studios in Vancouver, along with Don Whitman. Those two gentlemen will analyze the first half of play here at Commonwealth Stadium. Of course, congratulations to the Lions on a big win yesterday of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, earning a berth in the CFL's Western Division Final. And now that game will either be played in BC or here in Edmonton. If Calgary win this afternoon, the game is set for BC Place Stadium in Vancouver. If the Eskimos win, the BC Lions will travel to Edmonton, something I'm sure that Don Matthews and the BC Lions wouldn't want to do. We've got 11 minutes and 50 seconds remaining to play in the second quarter, and the Eskimos are leading the Calgary Stampeders by a score of 6-3. A big smile from the Premier of the province of Alberta, Don Getty. Of course, Don, the former quarterback with the Edmonton Eskimos back in his playing days. He's all wrapped up, nice and warm, got the gloves on, and enjoying the contest here at Commonwealth Stadium this afternoon. Of course, the Eskimos are on top of Calgary, which I'm sure he's enjoying. 6-3, 11 minutes and seconds remaining to play in the second quarter. It's 2nd and 5 Eskimos. The ball at the 31. The Stampeders were coming, but Dunnigan manages to avoid the rush and is very close to picking up the first down. They have it by about a half a yard to spare.
Talking to some of the offensive linemen, one of their concerns was most people think when the field is frozen that you want to go to a running game. Well, offensive linemen say that they would prefer to be in the drop back position so that they can get set up back there rather than go through that running game, because you can't plant and step forward.
Who says quarterbacks memorize all their plays? He's got it written down on a wristband. Of course, a lot of quarterbacks do now. The game is so complicated. The offenses are so varied.
He's trying to deceive.
You need a little help. 1st and 10 Eskimos. The ball at the 25-yard line of Calgary. Pass to Sinkar. Sinkar with a good move. Gets down inside the 50. Richie Hall over to make what could have been a touchdown-saving tackle.
Well, those linebackers are trying to read Dunnigan as he's looking to his right side, and Sinkar just slips out of the backfield and hangs over in the flat and is able to catch the ball and just pick up as many yards as he can to get the first down. It makes that read as those linebackers take a big drop. As we talk about the field, they have to react back up. By the time they get there, you can pick up 10 or so yards for the first down.
Well, that time was a gain of 13 yards. Dunnigan, by the way, has attempted 11 passes, completed 9, and he's going to pass again. Looking for Rick House. It's incomplete. A flag goes down. Larry Hogue may be called for interference.
Forward pass interference. Calgary, number 14. First down.
Well, Larry Hogue totally disagrees with that. The official was right there. He wants to try to play the read, and they came with the blitz that time, so he's in man coverage, and he's just reacting over the top of Rick House and got his feet tangled up. But I don't know if there was enough contact there as far as his hand on him to be called for pass interference.
A close call that goes against Bob Vespasiani and the Calgary Stampeders. Short yardage offense is in for the Eskimos. Touchdown, Dunnigan!
Tough break for Calgary. They get the ball down there. Have to get the ball on the 1-yard line. When you get down there, Matt Dunnigan knows exactly what to do with it. Get that 1 yard and get the touchdown. Don't play around with it, handing it off the back. Backs in the backfield, taking a chance for a loss. Get the touchdown and get the points on the board.
So the Eskimos will try and add another point to their total. Tom Dixon with the convert, and as usual, it is good. So the Edmonton Eskimos go in front of the Calgary Stampeders by a score of 13-3. 9:52 remaining to play in the second quarter. By any stretch of the imagination, that's a long scoring drive and a very good drive for the Edmonton Eskimos, resulting in 7 points.
Well, good play on them. Matt Dunnigan takes it in for 1 yard, but there's a lot of action that happened in between those yards and 90 yards down the field. And he's controlling the offense right now. That's what they've got to have for Edmonton.
Dixon with the short kick, taken on the dead run by Kopp. Kopp to the 45-yard line, where Rick Johnson and the Calgary offense will scrimmage 1st and 10.
Well, it's important for Calgary now to get something going as far as their offense. Get the ball up the field and get some plus yardage and get inside that 55 and move the ball in there. If they don't score any points, at least try to keep Edmonton back in the hole and get some points. They don't want the gap to spread out any further than it is right now, so they've got to either try to come up some points or hold them deep into their own end zone area.
1st and 10 Calgary from their own 45-yard line. They trail 13-3. Johnson likes to run it himself. Brought down by Craig Schaefer, just shy of the 50-yard line.
Well, Rick Johnson is not noted for his running ability, but he can run. The thing was now is as a quarterback, when you're running down the field in this situation, you can't really plan to make the cuts that you want to do to get out of bounds.
Stephan Jones, good to see him on his feet. We understand he has a twisted ankle, but may be back in the game. And now Rick Johnson is shaken up on that last play, and if he has to lead the game, the Calgary Stampeders could really be in trouble.
Well, that's a really difficult thing. Now, as a quarterback, on this type of field, Rick does not need to take any excess shots, as he takes right there. He takes one right in the chest, and that's a problem. He is very valuable to this team, and he doesn't need to really be running with the ball. They can't afford to lose him. As you said, Steve, they need to have him in the game. And at this point, they're going to at least lose him for one play, and hopefully that'll be all, because if they lose him for the complete game, they could be in real big trouble.
And there's the man that will take his place, Jeff Tedford. He has seen some action for the Stampeders this year, not much.
Well, if you notice, Jeff Tedford was blowing on his hands there. As a quarterback in this type of weather, it really is a problem because your hands get very numb and you lose your feeling on that ball. So when you try to put it in there, they build little pouches around on your the front of your jersey, or you try to put your arms underneath your armpits, or just blow on them to get moisture and get feeling into those fingers, because you've got to have a feel on that ball when you release it.
Where's Bud Grant when you need him? Stefan Jones looks all right as he makes his way towards the dressing room area here at Commonwealth Stadium. Dr. Boucher is accompanying Stefan Jones, and that's good to see. Rick Johnson on his feet, walking towards the Calgary Stampeders bench.
Well, it looks like he took the blow right below his chest on his right-hand side, so hopefully that won't affect his throwing mobility.
Tedford comes into the game having thrown 34 passes, completed 17, 3 interceptions, and 3 touchdowns. There's no question that Tedford can do the job. And you have to wonder just how cold he is standing on that bench. 2nd and 5. Calgary, the ball at the 50. Tedford's got some room in front of him, and he has the first down with a couple of yards to spare. Greg Harding over there to make the stop, and I'm sure that Bob Vespasiani was holding his breath. He'd already lost one quarterback because of the hit, and now he may have lost Tedford.
Well, you got to be awfully careful coming in there. Tedford is probably really not warmed up to really throw the ball, even though he's right back there. He's not having rhythm in the game, so his natural instinct as a quarterback, if you see something, try to get it for the first down. But at the same time, you jeopardize your number 2 man when your number 1 man is already on the sideline.
Was he warmed up enough to take the hit? I suspect not. 1st and 10. The ball's at the 53. Tedford looking for some running room. Stuart Hill, the big play man for the Eskimos, comes up with a big one there.
That's what we talked about in the opening, the beginning of the game, is that Stuart Hill is the kind of guy that keeps the pressure on. He's got 17 quarterback sacks on the year, but he's been able to pressure the quarterbacks throughout the league all year long, so he's been having an outstanding year.
Rick Johnson catching his breath on the Calgary bench. Appears to be all right. Maybe we'll see Johnson get back into the game in a series or two. Big loss on the play, 14 yards, 2nd and 24. The ball's at the 43. Tedford, complete, or is it? No, they rule incomplete. Ray Alexander not happy with the call.
Well, that time, Edmonton came in with 6 defensive backs anticipating the blitz, and they blitzed Schaefer, and then they had the blitz come on and put the pressure on him, and the pass is thrown to Alexander. It did hit the ground. Good call by the official.
And you know, it's amazing how many calls are good calls by the officials. We often give them heat, and the players give them heat, the coaches give them heat. A lot of calls by the officials in the CFL are good calls.
It looks like Greg Harding is down there, injured defensive back for him. Another ankle problem. A lot of times you can't see a lot of things that are going on in the field as far as when you drop back. You can injure that ankle or your foot on the rear pass and you try to react back up on the pass as a defensive back. And sometimes those little things go on that you don't see, and maybe that was the case with Harding.
That brings on Glenn Harper. The Stampeders out. We'll get this away from the 35-yard line. It's a bad snap. It's high, but it's taken well. Almost blocked by Cliff Tony. A fumble and recovered by the Eskimos at the 25-yard line. 7:07 remaining to play until halftime. It's Edmonton leading Calgary by a score of 13-3.
But is the ability to roll out. When he rolled out to his left, he was able to buy more time. And as you see him as a quarterback, what you talk to him when you roll out left is to square those shoulders off and throw the ball upfield.
Schaefer had his hand on the back of Emmanuel Tolbert. Pass over the middle. And it's complete to Larry Willis, and another flag goes down, a fumble on the play. But they rule it was incomplete.
Jeffrey's pass is incomplete. Eddie Baskin on the tackle. There's the flag.
Cold hands perhaps on the part of Tetford, unable to get the feel of the ball. Penalty against the Edmonton Eskimos, and it marches the ball all the way down to the 46-yard line.
No play is called against the Eskimos.
Calgary's got to be happy at least to get something going up there and move the ball up the field. They've got to get something going before the half and come up with some more points before they go in half and not let Edmonton score anything else.
And they've got 4 minutes and 44 seconds in which to do something. They trail 14-3, but they're now 1st and 10 from the 46. Draw play to Petrus. Petrus, a couple of tough yards. Danny Bass, Schaefer, all in there to make the stop. You know, bad news from the Calgary bench. Chuck, we've just been informed that Rick Johnson has a shoulder injury and may not be back into the ballgame.
Well, that could be a big blow for Calgary because it looked like he did take the blow right up underneath that right shoulder, which may create a problem for him throwing, and that will have a big negative effect for Calgary.
I'm sure the Calgary medical staff will take a long, hard look at Rick Johnson at halftime. 2nd and 8. Tedford with the long drop this time. Complete to Greg Feger. Down inside the 35-yard line. Greg Schaefer over there to make the stop for the Eskimos.
Well, it's a good play, hitting that back out of the backfield. As Feger comes out of there, they get a little cross up. They're trying to play zone, and the defensive back hangs back there, and he misreads, and the back picks the ball out of the reception from the quarterback and runs it in the flat. He's out there by himself because there was a mix-up in the pass pattern and the defensive coverage.
Feger goes out of the ballgame. Potter and Petrus, the running backs. 1st and 10, ball at the 34. Tedford just lays it up there, hoping that Tolbert can get to it, and he had it for 1 brief second, and again a flag goes down. Three minutes and 12 seconds remaining to play till halftime. 14-3, Eskimos lead. The Argos game against Hamilton, game 1 in that 2-game Total Point Eastern Series. Don Whitman will be talking live to Don Matthews in our studios in Vancouver, and we'll have a full report on the junior championship yesterday. A big victory for the Regina Rams over the Ottawa Sooners. And Ron Howard was called for pass interference, and it has given Calgary possession of the ball down at the 34-yard line of the Edmonton Eskimos. And there you see some of the plays that the Calgary Stampeders are using, taped to the wrist of Larry Willis, a newcomer, a relative newcomer in the Calgary lineup, so he needs a little bit of help. 1st and 10, Calgary at the 24. Petrus. And he picks up 2 or 3 yards the hard way.
When you talk about those plays written on the arm of Willis, when you make those changes and new guys are coming in there, you come from a different system in the States or wherever you may come from, and you get those things mixed up. So formations you keep down there, and there are certain ways you run a pass pattern based on the type of call, like a 2, maybe an out, or whatever the case may be. And so you have to remember those things, and so Willis just got a cheat sheet on his arm.
That's exactly what it is. A little bit of a cheat sheet. 2nd and 8. Tedford has time. Complete to Alexander, who is down inside the 5-yard line. Greg Harding makes the stop on Alexander. The Eskimos were protesting that it was a fumble after he had made the reception. But the official was there to rule it complete, and a big play for the Calgary Stampeders. They spot the ball at the 4-yard line, so it's 1st and goal to go for Calgary.
Good play by Calgary. Got her in position to get a touchdown.
Alexander making his way over to the right sidelines. 1st and goal to go from the 4. Tedford just puts it up. It's complete to Emmanuel Tolbert. Touchdown, Calgary.
And what did we say about missing Rick Johnson? Jeff Tedford has come in the game and moved him all the way down the field for a touchdown. They put in that 6 defensive back situation, and somehow Tolbert got open back there all by himself, and Tedford was able to pick him up. He had a blitz coming right into his face, and he got rid of the ball before he got the full contact. And Schaefer was the one that put the big hit on him, but somebody lost their man, and Emmanuel Tolbert, and he was all open.
Came into this game having scored 11 touchdowns on the season. That is number 12 for Tolbert, and a big touchdown it is. J.T. Hay will attempt to convert, and it is good. So the Calgary Stampeders are right back in this one, 14-10.
Well, they did exactly what they had to do. As Tedford drops back there, he's getting pressured by Schaefer right at the middle, lets the ball go up the field, and Emmanuel Tolbert was right there to catch it for the touchdown. They had to come up with some points here without allowing Edmonton to do it, and they did that, and now they're in position to come out in the second half with a better play. Now, whatever is going to happen to Rick Johnson, I don't know, but Jeff Tedford has come in the game and done an excellent job so far for him.
Interesting on that play that they would use 5 receivers on a short yardage situation. That may have fooled the Eskimo defense a bit.
Well, I think what they realize is that without Gary Allen in there, they're not really worried about doing a whole lot of running. That forces their game plan to change from using that running in that situation to go into a pass play. And using 5 defensive backs is another way to put pressure on Edmonton.
Good job by this man, Jeff Tedford, the backup quarterback, pressed into service when Rick Johnson went down with a shoulder injury. And believe me, as a former backup quarterback of many years standing, I can tell you that is perhaps one of the tougher positions in sport to come in as a backup quarterback. You sit on the bench, you get a little cold, a little stale, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into the heat of action. And Tedford has done a good job. J.T. Hay kicking off following the Calgary touchdown. Taken by Williams at the 35. Crosses the 40. He's got speed. Gets up to the 50-yard line where he runs into Mel Jenkins. And Calgary are indicating fumble. And so is the official. Calgary take over.
Well, I saw indications the other day of things that the new style of tackling, and that is stripping the ball. A lot of times in the past, the hit was just made to try to make a hard hit. But a lot of times, you'll see defensive backs and linebackers swatting the arm of a guy carrying the ball, trying to knock it out of there. And when they do that, they can get the turnover. But if they don't do that, sometimes it causes for the guy to miss the guy and to take it for a long run.
Williams is the injured player on the field as we look at the man who came up with the strip there, Mel Jenkins. And it's interesting because they have no backup wide receiver. So Jackie Parker and the Eskimo offense will have to make some adjustments.
Well, the kickoff return, you just want to hold on to that ball. When you feel contact, put both arms around that ball instead of having just one and hanging it out, because there's a lot of people around you. That time he was hanging out, and they were able to strip the ball away from him and pick it up on the fumble.
Of course, that's easier said than done. You know, we say have 2 arms wrapped around the ball. We're not down there running. Well, sometimes you just can't get that extra arm around, or the second arm around the ball.
It only means a lot.
You're coming back.
It only means a lot when you get caught making the mistake.
Well, he said they're coming back, and they have indeed come back. At one point, they were down 14-3. It is now 14-10. Let's check the CompuStats to this point in the game. Edmonton on top net yardage, 185 to 53. Passing, 84 for Calgary, 139 for the Eskimos. So the Edmonton Eskimos have a clear advantage in all these statistical departments, but they only lead by 4 on the scoreboard, and that's where it counts. Neil Lumsden, our spotter, tells us that Marco Sincar will probably go to the outside position in replace of Williams because they do not have a backup. Remember, Stephen Jones went out of the game with an ankle injury. Williams came in to replace him. So the Eskimos are in a bit of a bind in that spot.
Well, you know, I remember when we used to have these problems when we were playing, you used to always have a defensive back or a backup quarterback or somebody that could fill in there at wide receiver. But nonetheless, they would never be that effective as the people that you're used to having in there. So you have to watch and wait and see what they're going to do with their offense, because you could have people who've been used to running that defensive secondary come over and go both ways as you begin to lose people in a game like this. So it's very critical for your offense.
Henry Williams looks like he might be favoring his back. 2:06 remaining to play until halftime. Edmonton lead 14-10, but Calgary have the ball. 1st and 10 from the 50. Tedford gives to Petrus. Petrus drives up the middle. Gets to the 45-yard line. Zachary is there to meet him.
Well, you have Jeff Tedford doing a good job, and he's out of Fresno State as far as the school he went to, but he also has 2 guys in the game, Larry Willis and Tony Woodruff, that are also from that school, so he's familiar with those receivers.
Zachary also in on the tackle.
Wants the block on Bass. Oh, that is what you call taking the middle linebacker out of the game. Nullifying the middle linebacker. Good move. 2nd and 6 for Calgary. The ball at the 46. Pass over the middle. It's intercepted, Eskimos. Cliff Tony with the big play defensively for Edmonton.
Okay, you're going to see on this play the linebackers Schaefer and Bass do the blitzing inside here to put the pressure to get up in Tedford's face. When you get that type of action, you put the pressure on that quarterback and you get in his face, he just gets rid of the ball and he can't see it, goes the interception.
Good concentration on the part of Tony there. He had to worry about the official. He almost ran into him. 1st and 10, Eskimos. Dunnigan having trouble planting his feet, finally dumps it off to Milson Jones. A flag is down at the 50-yard line.
Dunnigan's pass.
Elvis Satelli in there to make the stop for Calgary. Let's pick up the call. Edmonton dressing room by the doctor. We're keeping our fingers crossed. Hope he's all right. Earlier this season, of course, the Eskimos stunned by that very, very serious injury to James Bell. First and 10. Make that 1st and 20, Edmonton. Dunnigan to Milson Jones. Jones dropped at the 46-yard line by Anthony Woodson.
Dunnigan's pass complete to Milson Jones.
As you take a look at Williams, he looks like he's in a little agony, a little pain there. They want to take him in right now, right before the half, and make sure he gets warmed up and just check out the injury more closely before they bring him out back in the 2nd half. Hopefully it's something that he can return as far as the Edmonton Eskimos are concerned, back to that lineup.
Minute 16 remaining to play till halftime. Dunnigan again dumps it off for Jones, but this time Jones unable to hang on. Good pressure from Stu Laird on Dunnigan.
Calgary is content now to sort of play a little zone defense, make sure they keep the short pass in front of them and react back up before they get the 1st down. They dropped back in the last 2 defenses and played zone where they had 4 or 5 people in the short zone and 3 people in the deeper zone to prevent that ball from going upfield to getting the 1st down.
Tom Dixon came into the game averaging 45.3 yards per punt, 3rd best in the CFL. I wonder if Calgary will come with everybody on this play. 1:07 till halftime. Low spiral from Dixon that time, taken at the 20. And Balkovic was downfield very quickly to find Darcy Kopp and drop him before he could pick up much more than 1 or 2 yards on the return.
Now you're in a position here, what do you do as a coach? Do you want to try to get more points on the board with 58 seconds? Or do you want to try to run this clock out going in halftime, only 4 points behind with your #1 quarterback out and your #1 running back out? So you have to watch what Calgary's going to try to do here. I think they should try to run that clock out and save some time for them Tedford to come in that 2nd half.
I disagree. I'm a gambling sort of guy. We go for it. 1st and 10 Calgary. Tedford gets the pass away under tremendous pressure, but he fires it way over the head of the intended receiver, Woodruff. 2-8. Applying good pressure that time for the Eskimos on Tedford.
Now they're going to have to come up with a big play and hopefully keep that ball in bounds, because they're going to eventually give that ball back to Dunnigan in good field position if they don't come up with a 1st down here.
Second and 10. Ball at the 24. 54 seconds till halftime. Draw play to Potter. And Potter hit at the 25-yard line by Stuart Hill. Jackie Parker indicating what he wants the Eskimos to do rather frantically. Unusual to see Jackie that animated.
Well, they wanted to get the timeout to stop that clock with 49 seconds. If they can get that ball back in field position, then they can move it in and get a chance at another field goal or get some more points on the board, and that's what they want to do. As I talked about earlier 2 plays ago, you have to be careful that you don't want to give them the ball in real good field position so they can score again. And at that time, when they threw the ball on first down and called it incomplete pass, that stopped the clock, and when they came back to try to run it on second down, they called a timeout to stop it, so they have plenty of time to possibly get another score on the board.
Tom Richards into the ball game to return this punt for the Eskimos. You know, we talked about the wide receiving ability of Williams and Stephen Jones. They are also the Eskimos punt returners. So the pressure now on this young man, Tom Richards, a local boy who played his high school and junior football in Edmonton.
Pick George.
Also played at the University of Alberta. As we looked at that man who had a very successful career coaching Canadian college football with the Acadia Axemen. Some time ago, then moved on to the pro ranks with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as an assistant coach, then went to BC, and finally wound up as the head coach of the Calgary Stampeders, and has done a super job. Good kick from Harper. Richards going to take this on the dead run. At the 50, found a bit of a hole, gets down to the 45-yard line with 39 seconds remaining to play. So the Edmonton Eskimos will have a chance to run off 3 or 4 plays maybe and add to their total.
Well, Calgary wants to be real careful here. You don't want to drop back and give Dunnigan too much time where he can throw the ball into the zone areas and pick up enough yards for field goal, but at the same time, if you put pressure with the blitz, you take a chance of giving up 6. So they've got to be careful and watch the coaching on the next few plays.
First and 10, Edmonton. Ball at the 45. Dunnigan under pressure, just dumps it off a screen to Milson Jones. Jones, good running. Takes it down to the 32-yard line. Bernie Morrison there to make the tackle for Calgary.
That time Calgary dropped back in the zone, and a good play to go against that zone is that screen pass, and they hit Milson Jones over there on the screen and was able to pick up enough yards for the first down. Now they're going to their quick offense, calling the play at the line of scrimmage.
Good gain of 13 yards for the Eskimos. First and 10, ball at the 32. Quick pass over the middle, complete to Marco Sinkar. Sinkar stopped at the 20. Larry Hogue going to make the stop.
Well, then again, they line up again, calling what they may call a fire. They call it different things. Different teams will call it as far as what you have to do to line up. And Dunnigan will scream a play to his backs and give the same play to his wide receivers. Call it to one side or the other and get everybody knowing what that same play is and get the play off before too much time runs off that clock.
Dunnigan looking for Kelly. Kelly unable to get his hands on it. Incomplete. The Eskimos and the fans calling for pass interference, but no flags down. 4 seconds remaining on the scoreboard clock here at Commonwealth Stadium.
Well, good coverage. They were coming with the blitz that time, and when you do that, you know you've got man coverage, and you've got to be right there with that man. And that time we were talking about Mel Jenkins. He was right there. He would be with Kelly the whole game, and he was able to come up with a big play for that defensive secondary.
Well, as you might suspect, Jackie Parker is waving Tom Dixon over to the bench. Matt Dunnigan also coming over. Do you kick a field goal with 4 seconds left? You try and go for it to increase your point total. Edmonton lead 14-10. 4 seconds showing on the clock, so this should be the final play of the second quarter.
Well, that was the first time today that they've gone to Brian Kelly. As I mentioned before, he's caught 49 passes on the year, but 10 of those passes were for touchdowns. So, you know, if they throw it to him 4 or 5 more times, he may come up with that big play for the TD.
It would appear that Parker is electing to go for the safe 3 points. Tom Dixon is into the ballgame. The Eskimos have been known in the past to provide us with a little bit of razzle-dazzle. Maybe they'll fake it. Who knows? Larry Willis awaiting this field goal attempt from Tom Dixon. He's had a good day. Perfect day, as a matter of fact. This one will come from the 27-yard line. And Tom Dixon remains perfect to put the Edmonton Eskimos on top of the Calgary Stampeders 17-10 as the two teams make their way to the dressing room here at Commonwealth Stadium. A very entertaining first half of play. I'm sure a lot of people feel a close first half. Right now, let's go to CFL Control and Brian Williams. Brian? Back onto the field here at Commonwealth Stadium. The Edmonton Eskimos in front of the Calgary Stampeders 17-10, and it is getting colder, folks.
Well, I didn't think it was possible to get any colder than it has been, but it is getting colder, Steve.
Chuck, what have you got for highlights for us?
Well, I think the Edmonton Eskimos have moved the ball up and down the field, and right now the highlight that I have for them is one with Rick House catching a pass. Rick, as Matt Dunnigan drops back, his offensive line has given him a lot of protection, and he had time to read and throw the ball upfield to Rick House, who caught the ball and was able to run enough yards to pick up 49 yards on that reception. That was one of the bigger plays as far as an offensive play and moving the ball up the field in the first half. Defensive play on both teams has been good, and that led to the touchdown, the 1-yard run by Matt Dunnigan as he follows his line into the goes to his left side into the end zone for the touchdown.
A very effective play for the Edmonton Eskimos, resulting in 6 points.
And for Calgary, they've been able to come back with Jeff Tefford at quarterback and throw this pass to Emmanuel Talbert for the touchdown to make the score 14-10 and got them right back in the game with points. So right now, Tefford's back into the game, or has been in the game, and doing a good job at quarterback.
You're Bob Vespasiani. What do you say to the Calgary Stampeders at halftime?
Well, you just let them know, hey, guys, you're in the game. We don't have our starting quarterback in the game. We don't have our #1 running back, and we're still in there. Play hard, do the best job you can, push the ball up the field, and let their defense play good for us.
And there's the man who replaced Rick Johnson. Did a fairly good job coming in off the bench. Jeff Tedford with the warm-up jacket on. It is colder here at Commonwealth Stadium. Of course, Derek Donaldson, our veteran production assistant in the booth, keeps telling me that it is not cold by Winnipeg standards, but I keep telling him it is very cold by Vancouver standards. It is minus 13 degrees Celsius officially as we look at the penalties in that first half. And it's interesting to note that in terms of total yardage, Calgary with the least penalized team in the CFL over the course of the regular season.
Where all those penalties that Edmonton got against them was in that big drive that led to that touchdown by Calgary. Unfortunately for them, they did have those penalties and they were able to get a touchdown to keep the game close right now.
J.T. Hay kicking off to get this second half underway. Tom Richards at the 40. Make that Skinner forced out of bounds just shy of the 50-yard line. So good field position for Matt Dunnigan and the Eskimos offense as the second half gets underway. 17-10 the score, and we are about to see the Eskimos with the ball for the first time in the third quarter.
Well, look for Matt Dunnigan just to stay with his game plan. Their game plan has not been a bad one. They've been able to take advantage of the backside of the backfield. Matt Dunnigan has done his thing, running out of the backfield and got upfield.
You think it's not cold here at Commonwealth Stadium? Look at those two all bundled up trying to keep warm. First and 10 Edmonton as referee Bud Ulrich runs up to the line of scrimmage, blows the whistle, wants to talk to his officials. Bud Ulrich should be used to the cold. He's from Winnipeg. All those Winnipeg types keep warm by shoveling their walk. Don Whitman has the world's longest driveway. It took him 3 days to get out. Quick pass. It's complete. Hopkins in on the tackle. That was Howland. Paid for that pass reception.
Again, that's what they do, is throw that quick pass out to those wide receivers and let them react as they can, as far as they can with the ball after they catch it. That time Hopkins came up very quickly in this frozen turf to make a good tackle.
A gain of 7 yards on the play. Ball at the 55-yard line. Dunnigan, good fake into the line. He's running the option well. And that's something that Matt Dunnigan does as well as any CFL quarterback, and that is run with the ball.
Well, I tell you what, that option play is a good old college play that you used to see, where you run down to the end of the line of scrimmage and you put the linebacker or the corner, whoever's the defensive man on the end of the line of scrimmage at the time, in a bind. Either he decides to go with you and take you, and if he does that, you pitch it back. If he decides to slide out as far as he did in that situation, you cut it up and get as many yards as you can. Matt Dunnigan got the first down.
Rushing for 12 yards, 1st and 10 Eskimos, the ball at the 42-yard line in Calgary. Dunnigan to a wide open Milson Jones. Jones' forward progress was stopped just shy of the 40-yard line.
Well, good reaction now by the defensive back, Richie Hall. Now, the one thing you're going to have to watch now, Matt Dunnigan will pump to one of his receivers short and get those defensive backs reacting back up and then throw it long, because now they are reacting a little quicker, coming up and trying to stop the short passes.
Pickup of 8 on the play. 2nd and 8, ball at the 40. Dunnigan breaks free in the pocket. Oh, he is so good at that. And he is so dangerous when he elects to run.
Well, it's difficult for the defensive linebackers and the people now to come up and get Matt Dunnigan, because he does have the ability to run just like a running back. Once he breaks free, he's just like any running back that you would have in the CFL. He has the ability to stop or run through a guy and has the strength to get through. He has a good athletic ability, and once he puts a few fakes on Bernie Morrison, he misses him, and he's able to pick up some more yards and gets the first down.
11 more yards rushing for Matt Dunnigan. There you see, has a total of 76. 1st and 10, Edmonton, the ball at the 29. Draw play to Skinner. Skinner turning the corner. Skinner down inside the 15-yard line.
Good action. Matt Dunnigan comes out. He runs what we look like he's running a sprint action, like he's rolling out to his right, and gives the ball back to Chris Skinner when he goes around to the left. That brings the action of the defensive secondary and linebackers to the right when Skinner is running back to his left. So good play, good call.
And excellent ball control on the part of Chris Skinner and the Edmonton Eskimos on this drive. 1st and 10, the ball at the 13. Dunnigan wants to put it up. He's getting some pressure. And he was looking for Kelly. Kelly got one hand on it, but it was about a yard and a half too far in front of him.
Well, Brian Kelly is a guy that he likes to go to in big situations because he can come up with a big play, and Dunnigan just buys more time for himself as a quarterback, and he has that ability to run. It really creates the problems for the defense, because now what do? If you're blitzing, you put yourself in man coverage, and if he breaks through that blitz and gets into that secondary before you get to react on him, he could take it all the way.
Dunnigan has attempted 20 passes now, completed 14, just over 100 yards. Like that, 181 yards passing for the Eskimos. 2nd and 10 now. Dunnigan complete to Rick House, and House is brought down at the 6-yard line.
Well, he didn't pick up enough yards for the first down, and I think they're in a situation where they're going to make a decision of whether they're going to try to go for it or go for the field goal. As you see, Matt Dunnigan just drops back. He takes about a 4-step drop and gets rid of the ball quick.
And the Eskimos are sending in their short yardage offense.
This is really a tough call when you're trying to run for this many yards down there, because, as I mentioned before, the offensive linemen on their blocks cannot get the type of footing on the frozen turf to drive off and make those solid blocks, and that allows the defensive line and the linebackers to penetrate. So it's going to be an interesting play here.
The ball's on the 6. They have to get to the 3. And I'm not sure that they got to the 3-yard line. We'll have to wait and see where they mark it.
It's going to depend on the spot here by the officials.
It's very, very close. Neil Lumsden, the former Edmonton Eskimo, now retired, says no, they did not make it.
We're going to have to see how good Neil's eyes are, whether it's time for glasses.
Well, he didn't need the good eyes. I mean, all he did was take the ball from the quarterback and put his head down and run. And the indication is first down by the nose of the football.
Glasses, Neil. Glasses.
So it's now 1st and goal for the Eskimos. Great effort here. Just a super effort on the part of Johnstone. He knew exactly how far the Eskimos had to go, and he got it by the nose of the football. So 1st and goal from the 3. This time Donegan goes over the top. Touchdown!
Well, if you're sitting there in your living room and you're watching this, you take a look at Matt Donegan. He jumped just like he was a running back jumping as he received the ball and gets it to the end zone. I mean, he's the only guy I know that can make a quarterback sneak look exciting.
2nd touchdown of the game for Matt Donegan. Makes it 23-10 Eskimos, and Tom Dixon is in for the convert. And as usual, it is good. So it's 24-10. The Eskimos leading Calgary with 10 minutes and 21 seconds remaining to play in the 3rd quarter here at Commonwealth Stadium. Matt Donegan doing a little bit of celebrating on the Edmonton Eskimos bench, and well, he should. The Eskimos now on top of Calgary 24-10 as he takes a long-distance phone call. You think that's from his mother?
I don't know.
I doubt it. Dixon with a good kick, taking it to 15. This is caught. And he gets up to the 40-yard line where he's met and brought down by Malkovich.
Again, a lot of responsibility heat now comes on that Calgary offense, as Jeff Tepper is still in the game, so we have to assume that Rick Johnson is really hurt and may have a problem with that. So we'll have to see how he's going to handle the rest of the game. Again, we take a look at Matt Donegan. He knows where his offensive linemen are going to be. He just follows the one that he thinks is going to make the big block for him, and he leaps to get into that end zone.
1st and 10 Calgary from the 40. A draw play to Petrus. And Petrus picks up 3, maybe 4 yards on the play. Mandrich in there to make the stop for the Eskimos.
Well, you know, Steve, we talked about earlier that the fact that the field is an advantage for the offense as they know where they're going. But as you get late in the game and you're behind, the defensive line now begins to take the advantage because they know that pretty much you're going to have to rely on that passing game. So they're just going to pin their ears back and come after you.
Passing situation for Calgary. The ball is at the 44. Tedford intending that for Ray Alexander, and he missed by a couple of yards. Even with his 6'3" height, Alexander unable to pick that one off, even though he left his feet.
Well, they would like to get the ball to Ray Alexander as much as possible, and Edmonton knows that, so they're going to put a lot of special coverage around him. They can't do any more than when they blitz and put man-to-man coverage. But if they can keep the heat on Tedford and keep him off balance, then they'll feel like they accomplish the little things to keep the ball from going to Alexander deep.
Tom Richards getting set to receive this punt from Glenn Harper. One of Harper's better punts, bounces at the 45, rolls to the 40. Richards will scoop it up at the 35 and fight his way back to the 35-yard line where Matt Donegan and the Eskimos offense will take over.
You know, coming into this city, it's an interesting thing because I was reading things in the newspaper about the fact that Donegan and Allen, which guy to start. You know, people voting for Donegan to start and Allen to start. And you have 2 excellent quarterbacks, and there's no way that you would have the decision of not starting Matt Donegan and using him. Didn't come in with Damon Allen. I think both of them complement each other.
1st and 10 Edmonton from their own 40-yard line. They lead 24-10. 8:51 remaining to play in the 3rd quarter. Swing pass to Skinner. Skinner 3 yards before he's forced out of bounds. Richie Holmes over there defending for the Stampeders. The word we get on Henry Williams of the Eskimos is that he has suffered rib and ankle injuries and will not be back into this game. We're still trying to get word on whether Rick Johnson will return to the game for the Calgary Stampeders. He was taken out with a shoulder injury. We'll stay abreast of those two injury situations for you. 2nd and 6 Eskimos. Halfback blitz. Calgary's coming. And the pressure was too much for Matt Dunnigan, looking for Howlett, but it falls incomplete.
Well, Hoy came on the blitz from the halfback position just to put a little more pressure on Matt Dunnigan. They want to do that, and they've got to put a little more heat on him. But the mistake you can make, though, is if you blitz in there after him and miss him, when he gets through that line of scrimmage, if he gets through there, then there's nobody to tackle him before he gets to the defensive backs who are 20 yards upfield. And once he gets one-on-one, he can beat defensive backs as well.
Tom Dixon enjoying a good game kicking for the Eskimos. He is 1 yard better than his season average in the punting department, and he's perfect, 3 for 3 in field goals. You can't ask more from your kicker than that. Taken on the dead run. Good return by Richie Hall out to the 50-yard line. So for a change, Jeff Tedford will have good field position when he comes onto the field to direct the Calgary offense.
Afternoon, Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton. Mike Kerrigan to Tony Champion, a 12-yard Ticat touchdown. However, J.C. Watts and the Argonauts proved to be too much. Watts from 25 yards here. The Argonauts win the first of the 2-game total point Eastern playoff, 31-17. We'll have game 2 next Sunday afternoon, 1:30 Eastern.
7:51 remaining to play in the third quarter here at Commonwealth Stadium. The Eskimos on top of Calgary 24-10. Just a reminder that should the Eskimos defeat Calgary, the Western Final will take place here at Commonwealth Stadium next weekend. The BC Lions will be the visitors, and I'm sure that Don Matthews would prefer to play in the comfort of BC Place Stadium, but in order for that to happen, the Calgary Stampeders would have to beat the Eskimos. So we know that Don Matthews is rooting for Calgary. 1st and 10, Calgary. Tedford, complete. Schaefer in on the tackle.
Brought down by Frank Bunker.
Tim Petrus on the receiving end of that pass from Tedford. And I think, Chuck, that's basically what they have to do. They have to forget the long stuff, just go with the short stuff. Take what the Edmonton defense will give you and do what Edmonton has been doing, and that is just pack away.
So right, Steve, and I think that they realize that they've got to come up with 6 or 7 yards on their first down play to create some problems for that defense on second down.
This time the handoff to Petrus. So Petrus gets the first down all by himself with a reception and a 3-yard run.
In that case, when they came up with 7 yards on first down, it puts the defense in a little bind as figuring out, well, is they going to pass or are they going to run for it? And that gives you a little better opportunity. They have 2 more downs to go for first down, whether you decide to run it or pass it and take the chance. And once you get over the 55, a lot of things happens and you get into 3-down territory.
They spot the ball at the 49-yard line of the Eskimos. 1st and 10, Calgary. Over the middle, it's complete. Greg Schaefer and Cliff Tooney combining to make the stop. And Larry Willis. The Calgary Stampeders certainly don't lack fan support. A lot of fans have made their way up from Calgary to Commonwealth Stadium this afternoon. Of course, the Calgary fans have done an outstanding job in supporting their football team all season long. They should be congratulated. 2nd and 2. They fake the pitch, give to Potter inside, and he has the first down.
Good play in that you fake that pitch and get that defensive line, and people think you're going wide and cut back in the inside against the grain. If they're angling one way or the other with that defensive line, you're able to pick up 2 or 3 yards on the cutback. Good for first down. They've got to establish themselves, keep this drive going, come up with some points.
If you were late joining us, Rick Johnson, the starting quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders, injured. Out with a shoulder injury in the first half. Jeff Tedford has come in as his replacement. Stampeders now 1st and 10, the ball at the 37. Tedford intending that for Tony Woodruff, but it's incomplete. And he was throwing into traffic that time.
Yeah, he threw that ball into a tight area. He's beginning to make one read and responding off of that. If it's there, you take it. But if it's not, go off into your secondary receivers. Find the backs out of the backfield and the people on the secondary route rather than try to force that ball in there in that situation.
5:10 remaining to play in the third quarter. 2nd and 10 Calgary. The ball at the 37. Edmonton lead 24-10. The Eskimos were coming with a blitz. He gets the pass away to Emmanuel Tolbert. Tolbert down inside the 20-yard line.
Good job, Teddy!
Good effort there on the part of Tedford and Tolbert.
Good play by Tedford. You know, he hasn't got a whole lot of playing time this year, and all of a sudden he's getting into a tough game, and the pressure's coming at him. Danny Bass comes up the middle with a blitz, and Tedford's looking him right in the eye, knowing he's coming. But what he does know when that happens is that they're in man coverage, and if he can find a man down the field to throw to, he can pick up a lot of yards.
Tolbert saw that Tedford was in trouble and made an effort to come back towards the ball, which is terribly important on the part of a receiver when the quarterback is in difficulty. 1st and 10 Calgary, the ball at the 19. Fakes the pitch. It's a reverse. Tolbert down inside the 15. Gets down to about the 12-yard line.
Good change of pace to sort of give them something else to look for. Well, Tedford fakes the pitch to one guy and then pitches to the Tolbert coming back the other way. Sort of a reverse, but not exactly, except that you get a counter action. You fake one way and then pitch it back going the other way.
Well, we saw Matt Dunnigan run the option play. That's kind of high school, college. That little play there was a little bit of razzle-dazzle. Reminds you of the kind of thing you might see in college football. 1st and 10. Make that 2nd and 3 now for Calgary. Tedford just puts it up. Looking for Alexander. He turned. He got a hand on it, but he couldn't pull it in.
Just threw it to the wrong side of him. Now, whether Alexander was going down to the field, should be looking to the outside or the inside. It was a mix-up on the pattern as far as turning. Tedford threw it to his inside. When he was looking to the outside, he had to turn around.
Mix-up on my part. I had Alexander. He wears 88. That was Larry Willis. He wears 89. Sometimes you get confused with those 88s and 89s.
Well, when I played in CFL, they didn't have those 88s and 89s. They were all 70 numbers. So all of a sudden now they've got all these receivers going to 88 numbers.
Well, they're going for it. 3rd down. They need 3 yards to keep the drive alive. The ball's at the 12. A draw, quarterback draw. He gets down inside the 10. He has to get to about the 8.5-yard line. The Eskimos are indicating that they will take the ball. Calgary simply running out of downs. 3 minutes and 2 seconds remaining to play in the third quarter here at Commonwealth Stadium. 24-10. The Eskimos on top.
Okay, you're going to see Tedford come out of here. He's going to run what we call a quarterback draw. And watch the reaction. Your ideal thing is to drop back here, let these linebackers drop back a little further, then run the draw. But Tedford runs back too short, and the linebackers have time to react back into the play.
He only needed 3 yards, and he did not get it. James Zachary coming up the big tackle for the Eskimos. 1st and 10 Edmonton. They get to Skinner. Skinner. Power running right up the middle. He gets to the 25-yard line.
Well, good effort by Skinner. As we pointed out before, those running backs can hurt you in both ways, both catching the ball. In this case, Chris Skinner ran the ball very well, right up the gut.
A pickup of 15 yards for Chris Skinner. Makes it 1st and 10 Edmonton from their own 25. This time they give to Skinner's counterpart, and he pops it loose. That's Nelson Jones with a fumble. Calgary have recovered. A big break for the Calgary Stampeders.
Well, a big break for Calgary. They needed the ball, and they need to get some points on the board. It won't do any good here if they just get it and don't come up with any score. They've got to come up with a touchdown now or some points on the board to put a little more pressure on that Edmonton defense. You got to tuck that ball away when you're running, and a lot of times when they make that tackle, that contact, defensive linebackers and people are taught to put that head right in your gut. And that time it went on the helmet and you fumbled.
Big fumble recovery for Ron Hopkins and the Stampeders, who are now 1st and 10 from the Eskimos 32. Tedford with time. Sets up. looking for Emmanuel Tolbert. And Cliff Tony has come up with the Edmonton interception, but a flag is down. So 2 quick turnovers, 1 for Calgary, and then right back to the Edmonton Eskimos.
Ineligible receiver, Calgary number 19, declined.
Well, naturally, the Eskimos would decline the penalty on the turnover.
Well, it's unfortunate for Calgary because I think it's a good play and a good call by Tedford as far as coming out, throw the ball on first down, and pick up something. This time, Tony just makes an outstanding effort of getting back into the play. The ball came up a little short on the throw, and he got back in there and picked it off for the interception.
I think you need to put a little bit more zip on the ball. He hung that one up there, and it allowed Tony enough time to get into position to pick it up. So now Matt Dunnigan and the Eskimo offense go to work. 1st and 10 from their own 1. Dunnigan working the option, trying to get out of the end zone. Does that and then some. That man could run, folks. He gets up to the 12-yard line.
Good play by Dunnigan. I remember when we used to run one of those plays, and now it could have been a naked bootleg. In other words, he called the play to run the play up the middle and doesn't tell anybody he's going to keep it. And he fakes it right up the middle, and when he breaks the containment and gets to the outside, pick up enough yards for the first down.
Is this guy a competitor or what?
He's a good athlete, good abilities.
Oh. He wants that first down so bad he can taste it. 1st and 10 Eskimos. The ball is at the 13. Skinner on the handoff, and a loose ball, and again, Calgary have taken over on the fumble.
Well, all of a sudden, this game has turned into a lot of miscues on both sides, and nobody's been able to take advantage of it. If we'd have been able to take advantage of some of those miscues, we've had a whole lot of points on the board by now.
This has become a comedy of errors late in the 3rd quarter. It could have something to do with the cold conditions out there, although at this stage in the game, I think I'd only be making excuses for it.
Well, it's difficult to hold the ball at times when your hands are cold, and the defensive backs and linebackers are trying to strip the ball. They're not just tackling the man, they're tackling the ball as well.
So Calgary take over, 1st and 10 at the Eskimos 15. Petros down inside the 10. Tune in to make the stop for the Eskimos.
Well, that time Calgary comes out there with those 5 receivers, and they'll send that one out of the backfield and run out there and try to put 5 receivers. At that time, they let Petros back there, the one running back, and he ran the ball.
Oh, it is so tense for Bob Vespasiani on the Calgary bench. You can see it in his eyes. He wants a touchdown badly here from the Stampeders. 2nd and 5. Tedford just lays it up. Tolbert is there. Touchdown, Calgary!
Good play. Same play as it was before when he caught the other touchdown. They know when you get down there and that close to the end zone, it forces the defense in man-to-man coverage. And this time, Tedford drops back. He reads the blitz is coming again. The linebacker's coming. He knows that Tolbert's got one-on-one coverage and throws it up for him.
Well, I mentioned he needed to put a little bit more zip on the ball last time. That time it was perfectly thrown. He just laid it up there, allowing Tolbert to run underneath it for the touchdown. Johnson is back into the game, but only to hold for the point after from J.T. Hay, which is good. So the Edmonton Eskimos margin is cut. It's 24-17, and the 4th quarter is still to come. Stay with us. You know, you look at the statistical story through 3 quarters of play, and you might get the impression that the Edmonton Eskimos are running away with this game. 319 yards compared to 129 for the Calgary Stampeders, but it's a lot closer than that. It's getting colder here at Commonwealth Stadium, but the action is heating up.
Well, Edmonton has been able to move the ball but not take advantage of some of that movement. And so now they've got to put some scores on the board. They're giving Calgary some momentum that they shouldn't have if you look at the statistics of the game.
J.T. Hay getting set to kick off following the Calgary touchdown. Taken at the 25. This is Skinner looking for running room. Does well to pick a few holes and does well to get to the 48-yard line. And another fumble. And again, Calgary have recovered. Ron Jenkins, the man of the moment there for Calgary.
Tough break. We talked about turnovers playing a big factor in the game, and here we go again. Yesterday there were some turnovers that were happening, and to that afternoon's game, there's several turnovers that are playing a key factor in the game.
And Chris Skinner is still down on the frozen turf here at Commonwealth Stadium as the Stampeders celebrate on the bench. And, well, they might. They just refuse to quit, and really that has been the story of the Stampeder team all year long.
Well, it's full milk to the coaching team. If you take a look at the turnovers here, both of them have 5. But with their #1 quarterback out, Gary Allen out, they're in here fighting for every inch and everything they can pick up, and they're doing a good job at it.
If the Edmonton Eskimos do get through to the final, it will be a beat-up team that takes on Dom Matthews and the BC Lions. Dom was saying he hoped it would be a physical game. I know that he didn't want anybody to get seriously injured. He just wanted the Eskimos to know that they had been in a semifinal before they met the Lions in the final. But right now, Calgary had the ball. 1st and 10. Tedford. Complete to Potter. Potter has the first down. Quick Tony over there to force Potter out of bounds, but not before he got down to the 35-yard line.
Well, good call by Tedford. This time he drops back and does a play-action pass where he fakes like there's going to be a run and hits the back coming out of that backfield in the flat. And if those defensive backs are dropping off any kind of way at all, they're going to leave that flat open, and that time they were able to pick up the first down.
A pickup of 16 yards for Potter on that last play. Makes it 1st and 10 Calgary, and the ball has been spotted at the 35-yard line of the Eskimos. Tedford unable to get the pass away. Good pressure from the Edmonton Eskimos, Danny Kern.
Well, you got to have that heat coming up by your defensive lineman. That time Danny Bass came with a blitz, and he was picked up by Tim Petros, but that leaves those defensive linemen one-on-one, and he was able to get in there for the sack. When a team comes up with a big play and a turnover like that, you want to do something to stop their momentum, and they came with a blitz to try to stop that momentum and push them back.
The Eskimos now have 6 defensive backs on the field. 2nd and 20 Calgary. Tedford gives it to Willis. Willis looking for some running room outside. There is none to be had. The Eskimos defense rises to the occasion.
This time, both teams are doing something a little abnormal that they normally would do. Edmonton came out with 6 defensive backs, and Calgary came up with 5 offensive receivers. So both of them are not sticking to their fundamental game plan in certain situations.
A big play for the Eskimos defense, forcing Calgary into a punting situation. Glenn Harper will get this away from the midfield stripe. Richards, the lone punt returner, and the Eskimos were coming, and a good high spiral into the end zone. Richards takes it there and will concede the single point. So the Calgary Stampeders do not come away empty-handed. They managed to pick up a single point and now trail the Eskimos 24-18, 13:05 to play. I hope Ron Lancaster is listening to this one. I have figured out why there are so many turnovers in this game. It's a full moon, and you see the gravity of the moon is pulling the ball out of the arms of the receivers. And that man, many more turnovers, he's going to start baying at the moon, I'm sure. How's that for a theory?
Ronnie says he's got a lot of theories. Maybe doesn't have all right, but he's got a lot of them.
Well, if he can have heavy air, light air, I can have the moon's gravity pulling the ball out of the ball carrier's hands. Okay, let's see what Matt Dunnigan and company can do now for this Eskimo offense. Pass over the middle for Johnstone at the 45-yard line. Be very close to a first down. He had to cross the 45. Anthony Woodson in there to make the stop for Calgary.
Well, the ideal thing for Edmonton now to do is to establish a controlled game. Take 5 or 10 yards on a pass, pick up first downs, and move the ball closer where they can get some points on the board and use up time on the clock. Gain of 11. 1st and 10 Eskimos from the 46. Calgary's coming. The screen works perfectly. Jones
down outside the 50-yard line of Calgary.
You're going to see the linebackers come in here and come from the blitz. And when they leave that area, Wilson Jones comes right over this area, catches the screen, and is free to run upfield. And that's what you've got to do when you get that screen area and as linebackers leave those areas in the zones where they normally would be to clear. Pick up that first down with the screen.
And we have an injured Calgary Stampeder down on the field. As the fans begin to chant here at Commonwealth Stadium, Go Est Go. This program is copyright and is strictly for the use of our audience. Any reproduction, retransmission, or exhibition in whole or in part without the written consent of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is strictly prohibited.
Well, the crowd is really getting involved with the game now. They know that they're close to having the final come back there. Bernie Morrison probably got a little hit contact there, and he's an injured player. You know, the linebackers are awfully aggressive, and they're in every play, but sometimes they get hurt by somebody else. His own player that time rolled over the back of his leg and created the injury.
How many times have we seen that happen? 1st and 10 Eskimos. Nelson Jones, and he just turned on the brakes. You think he was playing hockey the way he got by that initial tackle.
Well, Milton Jones is fired up. I talked to him once before about his role as far as that Edmonton offensive backfield. And he says he works things out with he and Skinner. Hey, they just take what they get. We'll block for each other. We'll take the passes out of the backfield, or we'll run with it. He has the ability, as I said, he led the team in receptions with 55. For a running back, that's great.
Short yardage offense is in for the Eskimos. Need about 1.5 yards for the first down to keep the drive alive. Quarterback sneak, as you might expect from Matt Dunnigan. It has worked all afternoon against Calgary, and there's no reason to think that the Eskimos would use any other play in this situation.
Well, he's been very effective running that to his left side over Rod Knopp and Leo Blanchard. And when you have confidence in your offensive line and doing that, you just keep running it when you get those situations. Come up with the first downs. Don't waste time with it, and then able to come up with some points. Keep the drive going.
1st and 10 Eskimos. The ball is at the 40-yard line of the Stampeders as the official comes over to adjust the ball. And now referee Bud Ulrich is conferring with the two teams. 10:40 remaining to play in the 4th quarter. 24-18 Eskimos lead. Draw play. Nelson Jones right up the middle, and again a good display of power running from Nelson Jones.
Well, you have two backs like Nelson Jones and Chris Skinner. Chris is not having a great night and making mistakes, so they make the flip-flop a little bit, and you start using Nelson Jones a lot more in the running and the pass receiving. And so that allows Nelson Jones' confidence to build up and doesn't put a lot of pressure on Skinner. And there's a great hole by that offensive line. When you get a hole like that to run through, you're very happy as a running back.
Did you see him put the second hand on the ball that time? He wasn't going to lose that one on a fumble. Dunnigan elects to keep it himself. Runs outside and gets the first down.
Well, you really get into the bind trying to simmer down a quarterback like Matt Dunnigan from a defensive standpoint. If your front four can't get to him, you want to put pressure by sending your linebackers. And if they don't get to him and he gets through the field, he's able to pick up a lot of yards. He's a great athlete.
It's 1st and 10 for the Eskimos, and they spot the ball at the 10-yard line. 9:51 to play. 24-18 Eskimos lead. Dunnigan had that tipped by Stu Laird, who was coming in with the rush for Calgary, and he got his hand up there, and it left Dunnigan's arm, and Laird was able to get a piece of it.
Well, Stu Laird was coming from the defensive end spot because he was out wide trying to stop that containment, and they were trying to put the blitz up the middle to force Dunnigan back in the pocket. And if they can have the containment outside by Laird and get that pressure up the middle, then they may be able to have the opportunity to sack them. They haven't been that fortunate yet.
Dunnigan and the Eskimos will do it again. 2nd and 10 from the 10. Halfback blitz. Dunnigan puts it up. Looking for Richards. Incomplete. And the fans think there should have been an interference call on that one.
Well, it was close. They were involved with pretty heavy contact. They were in man coverage, and the footing was bad back there for the defensive back, and he tried to react back into the play and was close to getting an interference call.
So Jackie Parker, not willing to gamble, has sent in Tom Dixon to get some points on the board for the Eskimos. And up their lead by 3. Dixon has been kicking well, and certainly from this range, it should be automatic. Dixon puts it through. So the Edmonton Eskimos now go on top of the Calgary Stampeders 27-18 with 8:59 remaining to play in the 4th quarter here at Commonwealth Stadium. Just a reminder of our next game on CBC television. It will be the 2nd game of the 2-game Total Point Eastern final between the Argos and the Ticats. Of course, the Argos were relatively easy winners in the opening game this afternoon. Chuck Ely and I will be there. Ronnie Lancaster will be there. Don Whitman will be there. We're all going to be there.
Yeah, it should be an exciting game. 2-game total points. You know, Hamilton is still in there as far as being able to come back, and that's what they're going to have to do.
Hamilton traditionally have always played well at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto. Let's hope they get a big crowd out for that one. The Argos get the support they deserve. Tom Dixon kicking off following his successful field goal. Hopkins. And Hopkins is driven back once he crosses the 30-yard line.
Well, we talked about Edmonton establishing a drive in that last series and coming up with points, and that's exactly what they did. They were able to keep the drive going and use time off that clock. Now Calgary, on the other hand, is now going to have to come back and score some points relatively quickly. They don't have to panic and get to break their game plan, but they have to march up the field and come up with some points.
Wasn't it about this point yesterday when Winnipeg came to life against the BC Lions, made a game out of it? Let's see what Calgary can do. They trail 27-18, 1st and 10. Tedford, lots of time, goes long, looking for his main man, Ray Alexander, and it falls incomplete. Well thrown ball there from Tedford, but good coverage on the part of Tony.
Good play in the coverage back there by the secondary people.
So after that long pass attempt, Calgary will get to do it again. 2nd and 10. Alexander comes wide to the right at the bottom of your screen. Willis is wide left. Pressure this time from the Eskimos, and Tedford does not get the time to put it up. Again, the Eskimos defense coming up with a big play when they had to.
A lot of times we talk about them playing zone, and this is a sack to the defensive secondary. Here you got guys dropping back deep here, and deep on the other side, while these guys play the short zone, 3-deep zone. As you watch it, as they drop back, they're just covering their area, and the 4 front people are putting the pressure on Tedford.
Back to the live action, a punting situation for Glenn Harper and the Stampeders. Good booming punt from Harper, his longest of the game. Taken at the 30. This is Richards. Brought down as he crosses the 50-yard line. So once again, Matt Dunnigan and the Eskimos offense will have good field position.
So often when you have those long punts like that one was, it stretches out the difference of where your people are covering from the defensive standpoint and leaves some large gaps for you to have a good return.
A 55-yard punt from Glenn Harper, a 21-yard return from Tom Richards. setting up a 1st and 10 situation for the Eskimos from their own 51. They lead 27-18, 7.5 minutes to play. Dunnigan fires a strike over the middle, complete to Rick House. House just shy at the 45-yard line.
That time, Matt Dunnigan just took a quick drop and threw what we call a slant pattern right into the middle. And what that does is 2 things. You get rid of the ball quick, but you allow your offensive linemen to get into a different blocking scheme where they can cut those defensive linemen to slow down that type of rush that those defensive linemen like to put on quarterbacks.
One quick correction on the time of that game next Sunday, the Eastern final, 1:30 Eastern time, not 1 o'clock, 1:30. A draw play to Milson Jones. Jones does well to get down to the 40.
Well, you notice how quietly that the Edmonton Eskimos, not demeaning-wise, have taken Chris Skinner's running portion of the game. If he's not having a good game, you have a problem holding that ball, go to your other back. And they're relying more on Milson Jones to run some of those sprint draws that Chris Skinner was used to running more so.
They spot the ball at the 41, so it's a pickup of 5 yards. 6:13 play in the 4th quarter. The Eskimos on the move. Jones again. This time, after picking up the initial yard, he is met by about 5 white and red sweaters. Led by Harold Hallman, the Stampeders nominee for Rookie of the Year. In fact, the Western nominee for Shenley Rookie of the Year. There you see it, the CompuStats. A look at the difference. 402 net yards for the Eskimos as compared to 127 for the Calgary Stampeders. A huge difference.
Big difference, but the Calgary Stampeders get full marks for still being able to keep this game relatively close where they've been in a game where they can score and still come out and win it. They're going to have a tough task ahead of them to beating that Edmonton defense, but there's still a possibility with almost 6 minutes left to go in the game.
This is not a knock against anything that Tedford has done, but you have to wonder what would have happened had Rick Johnson and Gary Allen been healthy for this game. Tom Dixon angles that one into the corner, taken by Tolbert at the 1-yard line. And he is dropped short at the 20-yard line. 5:30 to play in the 4th quarter. The score, 27-18 in favor of the Eskimos.
Game stars will each receive a Royal Canadian Mint 1-ounce gold coin presented by Remington Products, makers of the 3M surgical clippers for hospitals and the microscreen rechargeable for you at home. Advanced shaving technology only from Remington.
And that man would certainly have to be considered for one of the Carly O'Keefe game stars. Matt Dunnigan has done an outstanding job at quarterback in the Eskimos this afternoon. 1st and 10 Calgary. Tedford on the roll. And that is complete to Alexander, but it was almost picked off.
Tedford's pass is complete to Alexander.
Well, good grab by Alexander. He just had to extend himself back to that pass pattern. They tried to flood the right side and roll Tedford to the right side where the pass was being thrown.
There's a flag on the play.
A flag down on the play. We'll have to see what the call is. Referee Bud Ulrich conferring with the other officials. And they want to move a little further back from the players. Not trying to ignore them.
Well, better than discuss the decision that they make rather than make a rash one and be wrong. Well, I wonder if the discussion
Ball
was
was
about...
caught. 1st down.
Well, there goes my wonder.
That was the discussion. He was just asking the other officials whether the ball was caught or not. It was indeed caught. It was a gain of 18 yards, so it's 1st and 10 Calgary from their own 36-yard line. Tedford gets it away just in time, complete to Willis. Willis comes up shy at the 50-yard line. Be close to the 1st down.
13 yards.
A pickup of 13 yards for Larry Willis. First and 10, Calgary from their own 48. 4:14 to play. Tedford completes over the middle. So Tedford doing what he has to do to move the Calgary Stampeders down the field. That time, a pass to Potter.
Well, he's just completing short passes over the middle, and Edmonton's willing to give up a lot of that. Bend but don't break. Don't give up the long, quick, easy touchdowns. Let them use up some time on the clock and stiffen up as they get closer towards your own defending end zone.
The ball now in Edmonton territory at the 53-yard line. Potter, the ball carrier. And I'm not sure that he had the first down. Stuart Hill was there to meet him.
Well, Jeff Tedford is going to have to try now to get his people into a hurry-up type of concept. Not necessarily a hurry-up offense, but move back into the huddle, call the play quick, get up to the line of scrimmage, and go. Don't waste any time.
Well, the officials aren't wasting time either. I thought they might call for the change on that one, but they don't. But there is a timeout on the field, so we'll take a timeout. 3:09 to play, 27-18 the score.
Let's go. Now's the time. You're feeling the heat. Moving to the beat. Get moving to the highlight. Miller highlight. You're moving, so live it. It's your turn now, so take it. Get moving to the highlight. Miller highlight. Get moving to the highlight.
Miller Highlight. Cold and clear, clean and simple.
Zenith's clean, cube-shaped styling gives you so much screen from side to side and corner to corner, it makes watching television a whole new ballgame. Zenith. Quality.
There you see the time remaining to play in this second half of the CFL's Western Division semifinal. The Edmonton Eskimos on top of the Calgary Stampeders 27-18. Again, should the Eskimos win, the final will be here next Sunday against the BC Lions. And the fans are really whooping it up here at Commonwealth Stadium, and that's perhaps one of the better ways to stay warm.
That's a good idea.
You got to keep moving. It's a 1st and 10 situation for Calgary. The ball at the 51-yard line of the Eskimos. Tedford is sacked from behind by Tom Tuinet. He just reached out, grabbed him by the scruff of the neck, and pulled him down.
Well, I tell you, as a quarterback, that makes you mad. Those guys reach in big balls and just pull your shirt down. You know, you want to have those tearaway jerseys that you used to have, so when that happens, they can just rip away. But those guys are so strong that they grab the little quarterback and just drag him to the ground.
6'4", 265 pounds, and he used all of it there to stop Tedford dead in his tracks. Second down. Over the middle, it's complete. That time it was Tolbert taking it at the 50-yard line.
Well, they're in a situation where they're going for it on 3rd down. That time they were able to pick up enough yards to get them into a situation where it's now 3rd and 10, and they've got to go for it now to get back in this game.
It's about a yard short of 10, but it's still a lot of yardage to come on the 3rd down. Flag goes down. The pass is deflected in the backfield. It could be a legal procedure on Calgary, but I'd be guessing. We'll wait and get the call from referee Bud Uller.
Well, Steve, I think you're right. The right tackle was moving.
Offside, Edmonton number 36.
Whoa. Well, they call it the other way. Offside against the Eskimos. That's why I don't referee, you see, Chuck. Oh, well, we try.
I was trying to make you right, Steve, too.
Yeah, you were.
Because you look right. You look right from up here.
Well, that moves the ball against the Eskimos, but it's still 3rd down for Calgary. However, this time they only need 4 yards for the first down. 2:30 remaining to play. 27-18 the score. Calgary need points in a hurry. And again, the ball is tipped. And for a few brief moments, it was free in the air, but the officials rule it falls incomplete.
Well, the defense comes up with a big play there, turns the ball back over the offense, and now Matt Dunnigan goes back to work and trying to control that offense and use up the time on the clock.
And all he has to kill for that man is 2 minutes and 24 seconds, and Jackie Parker and the Eskimos will get to host the CFL's Western Final next Sunday here at Commonwealth Stadium against Don Matthews and the BC Lions. First and 10 now for the Eskimos. The ball at the 45-yard line. And they're going to keep it on the ground, as you might suspect. Nelson Jones, the ball carrier. Anthony Woodson in to make the stop for Calgary.
Well, keep the ball on the ground, keep the clock rolling, and then they'll be in the finals next weekend.
And that's basically all they want. And I would imagine that Jackie Parker would like to try and keep everybody healthy now. He has lost some key personnel in this game.
Well, BC coming into this final next week, as well as Edmonton, have had some key people get banged up. And so you'll have to see how things are going to wash out.
Clock is running. Dunnigan. Oh, and I don't think Jackie Parker wants to see Matt Dunnigan do that too often, although he does pick up the first down.
Well, Matt Dunnigan doesn't know how to slide or try to get it to slide. He wants to get everything he can get. And he knew how much he had to get for the first down, and he just pulled his way ahead to try to get that.
But he took a shot in the back that time, and he's favoring his arm. Dunnigan was favoring his right elbow, as was Harold Hallman, both holding their elbows. First and 10 Edmonton, 1:49 remaining to play. Chris Johnstone this time, and he's stopped at the line of scrimmage. Eugene Beliveau sticking his helmet in there and bringing Johnstone down.
Good play by the defense. You want to try to get the ball back. Matt Dunnigan and the Edmonton offense are not in any kind of hurry to get anything done. Look for Matt Dunnigan maybe to do something where he may roll out or pitch the ball wide just to use up as much time on the clock as he possibly can.
And Dunnigan is still holding his right arm. He may have had a hit on the play before last. Now it would appear that Calgary is going to call a timeout.
Calgary's called a timeout to stop the clock and try to use as much as they can.
Today's telecast, the executive producer was John Spaulding. Produced by Larry Brown. Rick Brace was our director. And isolation director Brant Hayward. Takes a lot of people to put together a CFL telecast on CBC, and these are just some of the people that made it possible under very, very cold conditions. So congratulations to all our technicians and production people who worked so long and hard to make the pictures as good as they were this afternoon from Commonwealth Stadium. And to all the people back at CFL Control. .139 showing on the scoreboard clock here at Commonwealth Stadium. Dunnigan has returned to the huddle. It's 2nd and 9. The ball's at the 52-yard line. Nelson Jones still on his feet. What a job Jones did there in picking up 4 or 5 very, very difficult yards.
Well, he's hot right now, and anything you give him, he seems to be doing well with it. He's running an extra effort. He's holding on to that ball, and that's what they've got to have in the situation that they're in right now. Control the game, use up as much time on the clock. Don't give him an easy turnover with an interception or a fumble.
It'll be tough to pick the Connie O'Keefe game stars from this one. So many outstanding players on defense for both teams. Same on offense. Certainly, you'd have to consider Nelson Jones, Matt Dunnigan, Tom Tournay. Cliff Toney. Dixon getting set to punt. Long count, using up those precious seconds. Taken by Willis at the 10. He's got a lot of moves, but the Eskimos weren't buying at that time. A flag goes down as Willis fights his way up to the 12-yard line. Make that the 17-yard line.
Major foul on the face mask, 89 Edmonton.
Steve Howlett guilty of pulling the face mask of Willis. So that gives the Calgary Stampeders a little better field position. They trail 27-18, 1:03 to play as we look at that again.
Well, that's a no-no. You just don't stick your hand in there. Sometimes it's an accident that you get your hand caught up around the guy's helmet and you just get caught on that face mask and pull it down. Other times, some guys try to do anything they can to stop you and they grab the face mask. Either way it goes, it's a penalty and it's wrong.
You expect me to believe that? An accident? Yeah. First and 10 Calgary on their own 32. Tedford over the middle, in and out of the arms of Tolbert. Just couldn't hang on. But that may have been because he had two Edmonton Eskimos, including Danny Bass, draped all over.
Well, Edmonton's now content to drop back probably what we call a 4-deep zone and playing 4 people way back and trying to let them hit up in front. If they catch the ball in front of them, react back up on them and let the clock take care of the business of ending the game.
And the clock is doing the job for the Edmonton Eskimos, showing now only 58 seconds separating them from a berth in the Western Final here next Sunday at Commonwealth Stadium against Don Matthews and the BC Lions. The Edmonton Eskimos dominated the BC Lions over the course of the regular season, but you can't count out the BC Lions based on the job they have done over the last 4 or 5 games. Tedford passing complete over the middle. Ryan Potter tripped up at the 41-yard line. The rodeo has been in town here in Edmonton. That time it looked like they were pretending that Ryan Potter was a steer.
Well, they're just reacting to the ball now. It's just, like I said before, let them catch the ball in front. There's not a whole lot Tedford could do because if you go deep, you got the ball traveling a long way, and those defensive secondary people are just back there 20 yards before the ball snap, waiting for the pass to come.
Tedford under some pressure. It's picked off. Danny Bass. And Bass tripped up at the 25-yard line. But did you see the way Danny Bass changed arms on the ball, just like a running back?
Well, you would think he had some kind of experience as a running back. I think Neil Lumsden taught him how to do that.
Danny Bass went from his right side to his left side with the ball. Let's see if we can pick it up.
Well, Tedford's in a bind now because they know that they're going to come after him. They know he's not going to do anything in pass, so they're standing back there in his own areas reading. And Danny Bass read his eyes and reacted to the ball and picked it up. And he switched arms, using the arm for the forearm shiver or the stiff arm, and tried to hit the defensive players trying to make the tackle now.
Bass will go back to the Edmonton bench and say, hey, that's the way you do it, offensive guys. And now Matt Dunningham will just simply try and kill off the remaining seconds here at Commonwealth Stadium. 38 showing on the scoreboard clock now. And many of the fans are heading for the exits. And is that an omen of things to come? The fans think that the Eskimos have a shot at the Grey Cup this year.
Well, they've got a good big task in front of them next week at BC Lions. Even though they've dominated them earlier in the season, BC Lions have come on with a strong effort these last several games that they've had against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
3 straight victories over the Blue Bombers, including yesterday's big win at BC Place Stadium in Vancouver. Of course, all of that setting up Grey Cup 86 to be held in Vancouver. The game itself on November the 29th. We will be there, of course. CBC Television, the place to be for Grey Cup coverage. All week long in Vancouver, there is something to do in connection with the Grey Cup. Festival 86, the organizers are doing just a super job in putting that together. Now the final seconds are running out here for the Calgary Stampeders, and the Eskimos have defeated Calgary 27-18 and advance to the Western Final here at Commonwealth Stadium when they host the BC Lions.
Well, there's the extra effort by Matt Dunnigan and the Edmonton Eskimos as far as